surgery later on this week. Timetable, we'll see.
Yeah.
The report is the timetable will be determined after surgery's over. So they go in there. If you find something that's worse than you were expecting that maybe you didn't see on the imaging, we'll find out.
I always assume that's ligaments. Like, I always assume that's...
Mm-hmm. I mean, do you have to put a rod in there to stabilize that fibula or something like that? Again, I haven't graduated from doctor school just yet.
Are you close?
No, I haven't started, but, it doesn't mean I won't get there. I mean...
A lot of people go to college for 7 years, Jason.
Yeah, they're called me. They're called radio hosts. That's what they're called. 913-912-4810 is the text line to join us to be a part of the show. 913-912-4810, text line to be a part of the show to weigh in your thoughts on what the Chiefs face this weekend against the Falcons on the road Sunday Night Football. Short week for Atlanta, but it was also a short week for Cincy compared to the Chiefs. Chiefs had extra days of rest. This is an actual short week for Atlanta. The Chiefs have an extra day of rest against the Falcons, but it is an actual short week for them. Chiefs got to sit back and watch Monday Night Football last night. Andy Reid said last time that he got to watch the Bengals on Sunday, so last Monday, said, it was probably a Sunday just like you guys, sitting around and watching the game. Well, if last night was a Monday just like us, does Andy take in the regular broadcast? Is he flipping over to the Manning cast? Like, how does Andy Reid taking that in? I'm not sure, but got a chance to just sit back and watch the Falcons game against the Eagles last night, and I'm glad the Falcons ended up winning, because if there was any element, and I don't know that there was or would be, but if there was an element of the Chiefs exhaling after you got through the rough part in these first 2 weeks, when all offseason you're gearing up for the first 2 games of the season, Ravens-Bengals, Ravens-Bengals, can you get through that 2-0? If you get to that 1-1, who do you lose to? Just get back. You win both those games. You got the tiebreaker over both those teams. You gave a loss to them. That's a 2-game lead over those teams if you win. They did. You do have to fight against a team internally that is all about the postseason, that is all about doing things to prepare you for the next season, and not next season like the Panthers are preparing for next season as in the postseason.
Yeah.
And winning these 2 games the first 2 weeks helps prepare you for the postseason. Now you've got an NFC team. You've got a road trip. You've got a nationally televised game, Sunday Night Football. And if there was an exhale of, okay, we made it through the Ravens and the Bengals, watching that game last night, you saw the Falcons go to Philly and find a way to win that game. So what does that do for the Chiefs? We'll see. They also have to get over the emotional loss of knowing that Pacheco's not going to be there for a while. I think the impact, we talked about Vinny Pasquantino and what he does for that clubhouse, the personality Vinny Pasquantino brings to the table. I think that can still help in baseball. You can still be around the team and have that positive energy, that positive vibe. But Pacheco's bleep you on the field and popping back up, tossing the football, showing that whatever hit you just gave me doesn't matter. There's an element of guys feeding off that on the field. You can't do that on the sideline. That's an element that I wonder how much is missed for this team. That running game where it's a smack you right in the face. Carson Steele can do that. We saw him do that. Hold on to the football. He's a tough runner. That guy's a tough SOB on the field, man. He is a tough football player. But does he bring that same spark, that Pacheco's personality and how he is on the field? I don't know. Chiefs will have to figure it out over the next 6 to 8 weeks or longer for however long it takes for Pacheco to get back in the mold and to be a part of this team. We'll see who they elevate from the practice squad. We'll see how the workout goes today with Kareem Hunt. We told you yesterday at 11 o'clock that the Chiefs and Kareem Hunt, there was a connection there. And eventually Tom Pelissero tweeted out it 4.5 hours after we said it with the Chiefs and Kareem Hunt. But workout today. We'll see what comes of that. There's at least interest. We told you that yesterday. They're bringing him in for a workout. I think it makes sense from a football standpoint as to why they bring in Kareem Hunt for a workout and not Jerick McKinnon. because they have Jerick McKinnon on the team already and Samaje Perine.
Agreed.
They need a first and second down back. I think Carson Steele can be that, but are you wanting to go into this season, the next 8 games, 2.5, 3 months, with a rookie, and if something happens to Steele or Perine, you're starting to get thin. That was my concern last week when we found out about Hollywood Brown. In that, all right, well, you got Xavier Worthy. Look what he did against the Ravens. Kelsey didn't do anything. You still got that running game. Rashee Rice looked good and legit. But if you lose your margin for error with injuries. It's like they got a deep wide receiving core. Okay, well, now you lost what was going to be your number 1 or 2.
Sure.
So everybody else has to move up. So now your number 5 becomes your number 4. You're not as good. Your number 4 becomes your number 3. You're not as good without Hollywood Brown. But you put yourself in a position, Sterling, of another one, you're in dire straits.
Yeah.
Same thing with the running back position now. Another one, you start to really get concerned of what this team can accomplish if you're limited in depth at the wide receiver spot and limited in depth at the running back spot.
What's the NFL? Injuries are going to happen, and
Absolutely.
you never know where or whom it's going to happen to. I mean, the Chiefs were able to, for a while, and the Super Bowl run that they lost to the Buccaneers, they were able to stay afloat with a lot of injuries on the offensive line. Eventually, it's one too many, right? That's what we saw. It was one too many. Again, right now with wide receiver and running back, I think they're okay. They can survive this. But if another one happens, then it just might be one too many. Running back wise, I want to take a quick little look here because I had the same idea you did as far as maybe you do rock Carson Steele first and second down, Samaje Perine your third down back. Again, I agree with you. Jerick McKinnon is he's not helping in an instance because he's not going to be your first and second down guy. He is Samaje Perine. You already have that dude on this team. So I looked at Carson Steele and what he did in college, his final season there, as far as how many attempts he had in a game. 13, 12, 5, 11, 30, 22, 20.
Ooh.
So he had a
30-carry game?
72 carries in a 3-game stretch, and then 11, 8, 11, 12, 12.
Yeah.
So he had that 3-game stretch of where he was the guy, but that's also college.
I mean, honestly, like 12, 13, 14 carries in a game, that's kind of all I would be expecting from Carson Steele. That might be on the high end of what I would think Carson Steele would get.
So as far as can he handle the workload, has he done it before? Yes, to an extent.
I think he can handle the workload of what will be expected of him now. He can't. I'm not putting him in the Isaiah Pacheco workload. He's not touching the ball 24 times in a game.
Agreed.
What did Pacheco touch it? 24 times? 23, 24 in that game?
That one up.
Let me pull up my
handy dandy
my game sheet right here.
I like that you use paper. I like that. I like that about you, Jason.
Sometimes you got to unroll it and roll
19 carries and 5 receiving, so 24. So you were correct.
Bang. 24 carries.
Okay,
24
Mike,
touches.
Okay, Mike Breen. Bang.
Bang.
Yeah, 24 touches.
So 24 touches. That ain't going to be Carson Steele, right? Carson Steele's not going to touch the ball 24 times. Is he going to touch it 12 times? Okay, that's fine. Then you got Perine. But also, you're probably going to put the ball into the hands of Patrick Mahomes more. Not a terrible thing to put the ball in the hands of Patrick Mahomes. Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy's going to have to play some better football. Travis Kelce, they got to find a way to get him open and get the ball to him while teams are clearly focusing on 87. You got to fix some things out. But for the foreseeable future, they will be without their either number 1 or number 2 receiver, however you want to label him, and their top running back in Isaiah Pacheco.
Again, we knew this was a risk with Isaiah with the physicality he runs with. Again, a lot of times it's not on the physical runs that these injuries happen on. Again, it was one where you didn't think much of it until you really saw how his leg got bent back. I mean, we always talk
I was worried about his knee.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about Lamar all the time. Lamar doesn't really get injured a lot running. It's actually more in the pocket. Joe Burrow, like you wouldn't expect that style to be injury prone, yet he has been. It's the NFL. Freak injuries happen. Injuries happen. It's how do you overcome? The Chiefs have been blessed with a ton of depth. Like Brett Veach give a lot of credit to. I always love how he's thinking ahead, where it's, okay, if this guy gets injured, at least we have some depth here. I will say running back is one of the spots that they're real thin in. We knew that going into this season. Yeah. We all had our concerns there. That bringing in of Samaje Perine now is even more important. I mean, imagine if they had rolled with Deneric Prince.
Yeah.
What if they had rolled with Deneric Prince and then you have Prince and Steele? They at least brought in Samaje Perine. That was, again, a much larger move. That was a small one at the time. Wide receiver, kind of the same thing. We're sitting 7 wide receivers. But we'll go to 6 when Hollywood comes back.
Prince and Steel was a great buddy cop movie. Prince is on the Miami practice squad, so you could bring him back.
Sure.
I mean, if you wanted to.
They would have probably had him over Amani Bailey or
Right.
Keontae Ingram if that was the case.
I don't disagree. But I would say if they start to get a little more desperate, if things start to go sideways, knock on wood, with another injury, then Prince being on the Miami practice squad might be somebody that you just simply go out. You don't have to elevate it on yours. He's on theirs,
Sure.
and you just simply go out and get it. He knows the offense with the Chiefs. So it's going to be interesting as to how they adjust moving forward. We'll talk with Adam Teicher about those things and more coming up an hour from now. Les Norman will be our guest at noon. We'll talk about this Tigers series, the rough game last night, the opportunities for the Royals, the Tigers and their very Royal-esque win, where just not quitting, fighting back, and then getting the win. It was very annoying. But the Tigers are playing some really good baseball right now. The Royals are 4 games up in the wild card over the Tigers. They are 2.5 games back of the Orioles for the number 1 wild card spot. Their magic number is 8 with 11 games to play. And I am not concerned of the Royals losing the wild card spot and not making the playoffs. But it would be nice for the Royals to split one of these next 2 games against the Tigers to really set any worries and anxieties to rest. That if you leave this series and you're still 4 games up on the Tigers, okay, I'll take it. It's not ideal losing the series, but that's the importance of tonight's game with Cole Reagans on the mound as opposed to tomorrow when Tariq Skubal is taking on Alec Marsh. That's a rough one. Get the win tonight with the Cole train going, all right? Ray Guns on the mound. Got that Cole train rolling tonight. So we'll see what he does tonight. We'll talk with Les Norman about that coming up at noon. Todd Lebo joins us at 1 o'clock. Fact or Fiction.
Fact.
It's been fiction a lot. But he's back in the
two weeks in a row, actually.
That's right.
This is
we're back in
crazy.
The training camp's over. We're getting like a regular week, a few regular weeks in a row. So it's back in the full mode of Tuesdays.
Will we have a new
Todd
song for Lebo this time? Dylan, do you think?
Probably. That's probably right. Yeah. Dylan came up with a new one.
I did, yeah.
Good for you.
Okay,
Dylan.
good.
I was there
Fantastic.
early
Good.
making it.
Good for you. Good for you.
Grinder.
All right, 913-912-4810. That's how the show lines up. There's the update on the Chiefs with surgeries for Hollywood Brown and Isaiah Pacheco later this week. Hollywood Brown last night or yesterday. Isaiah Pacheco later on this week. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back and there's a stat, Sterling. There's a stat out there that Chiefs fans don't want to talk about. I mean, they do. Chiefs fans do not want to talk about this stat.
Winning?
No, they want to talk about that stat.
Okay.
But I've been told that Chiefs fans will not say anything about this stat because it doesn't work in their favor, okay? Because it's about Patrick Mahomes and how he continues to get saved by the bell like he's Zach Morris. It is saved by the refs constantly for Patrick Mahomes. His league leading since 2018 interception called back because of penalty. Interception saved, nullified because of penalty. Patrick Mahomes is the golden child, the prodigal son the NFL protects. I've been told that Chiefs fans don't want to talk about that. Well, we'll talk about it for them. We'll do that on the other side of the break, and we'll present the entire story. We're not going to pick and choose narratives that work in people's favor. And the irony of this stat being passed around by Bengals fans is chef's kiss. Because when you dig deeper into the numbers, it's a bad look for Burrow. And Mahomes is all good in the hood. But let's also take a look at some other things, like Mahomes being the most protected quarterback in the league. Is he? We'll talk about roughing the passer, too, per pass attempt since 2018. And one particular player who's very protected. And it ain't Patrick Mahomes. More's on next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Sterling Holmes. Dylan Michaels. We had up until 2 o'clock. The next 4 hours. Well, 3.5 hours. We are a half hour into this, baby. That's right. Half hour down. 3.5 to go. 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show. 913-912-4810. Shout out to Joseph Hefner with KCSN, does analytics and graphics and produces some work for KCSN, the KC Sports Network. And the stat that was going around was Patrick Mahomes, through his league-leading interception nullified by defensive penalty in that Bengals game since 2018, the most in the NFL. It's a stat that was going around, including one of the content aggregators, JPA Football. I don't know. It's got like 4 million views, though. This is a stat no Chiefs fan wants to talk about. Well, Chiefs fans may or may not want to talk about it, but we will. So let's talk about it. Most interceptions nullified by penalties since 2018. Number 1, Patrick Mahomes with 16. Number 2, Joe Burrow with 9. By the way, he didn't start playing till 2020. So maybe that's not a great start for Joe Burrow. We'll get to more on that. Big Ben and Josh Allen tied with 8.
Seeing Ben Roethlisberger on this list is wild.
Mm-hmm. Ryan Tannehill with 7. And then Cousins, Russ, and Kyler Murray with 6. Baker with 5. And Jimmy G with 4. Those are the top 10. These numbers presented by the work done by Joseph Hefner at KCSN. Should also point out, because this was not presented in that conversation, most touchdowns nullified by penalties. Most touchdowns. So we had most interceptions nullified by penalties. What about most touchdowns nullified by penalties? Number 1, you guessed it, Patrick Mahomes with 15.
Golden child.
Number 2, Russ with 10, tied with Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. So Josh Allen has 10, Jalen Hurts has 10, Russ Wilson has 10. Kirk Cousins comes in next with 9, Jared Goff with 7, Stafford and Tom Brady with 6, Rodgers and Jameis Winston with 5. Those are the top 10. I don't see Joe Burrow on there.
What year did this start, by the way?
This is from 2018. So this is Mahomes' first year starting to current.
So Mahomes is going to have the most games played, too, by the way.
Well, Josh Allen started in 2018.
So those two.
And Goff and Stafford. Those guys have played.
Yeah, but Stafford's missed time. He's missed a year.
Yeah.
Russ has, I believe, missed at least some time.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Burrow's missed a lot of time. So the fact that he's second is absurd. He's missed like 2 years.
Yeah.
3 years difference.
He didn't even start. Well, he didn't play in 18 and 19.
That's my point. So he's missed.
And then he's missed 2 different half seasons.
Three plus years.
He's played 3
like,
years or so, yeah.
Dog, Bengals fans are dumb.
Well, it's not arguing from me. But here's what also needs to be pointed out. So this stat was sent to me after the game on Sunday. And my immediate response was, yeah, but how many are offsides penalties? Because Mahomes has free plays, it seems like, all the time. And I remember a handful of interceptions where he threw the ball, it was intercepted, and Mahomes was already pointing the other way and points at the flag. Like, nope, we had a free play. Took a chance.
Let him bring it back. Don't get injured. Don't tackle him.
Had a free play. It's all good. So I didn't know. I'm like, I do wonder how many that is. Again, shout out Joseph Hefner at KCSN. That's at Joseph, Jefe, if you want to check out the...
So not related to Hugh?
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not sure. Most interceptions nullified by penalties. Here are the individual penalties. Defensive pass interference, Mahomes has had 4. Holding, 1. Only one time defensive holding has taken away an interception from Mahomes. roughing the passer, 1. Other, 2. Defensive offsides, 8.
Wow.
Meaning half of his 16. Half of all of his interceptions nullified by penalties are on free plays. Joe Burrow has 9 total interceptions nullified by penalties. 2 on offsides. Meaning, if you eliminate the offsides, the play where you know there's a penalty before you throw it, you know there's a penalty on the defense before you throw the ball. You eliminate those. Mahomes has 8 and Burrow has 7. With 5,000 passing attempts by Mahomes and 2,500 by Burrow. That's not the stat you think it is, Bengals. That's not the stat you think it is. That ain't helping you. It's hurting your argument. It's not only hurting your argument, it's destroying your argument. Joe Burrow, when you look at the percentage of passing attempts that are, or interceptions with passing attempts that are nullified by penalty, eliminating the, even keeping the offsides in it, Joe Burrow is at 36% and Mahomes is at 32, or 0.36,
Sure.
0.32.
Yeah.
We'll just use the round numbers instead of saying 0.36 and 0.32. We'll just say 36%, 32%, just for an even number so you can follow a little bit more. Understand there's a 0 and a decimal there before the numbers, but you get the point. Burrow's at 36, Mahomes 32, with the offsides included. If you take out the offsides, Mahomes is at 16% and Burrow's at 28%. It is a terrible stat for Joe Burrow, and it is misleading, which is not a surprise. It's misleading in the narrative that somehow Mahomes is a protected, endangered species by the NFL, and they are going to throw these flags late if there's an interception. They are going to, make sure that Patrick Mahomes has every stat possible, even though his interceptions and touchdowns are almost even nullified by penalty, and only 4 of his entire 16 were nullified by defensive pass interference. 5 of them for Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow has more interceptions nullified by defensive pass interference, meaning that's an interception. You know what? I'm going to throw a flag. I'm bringing that interception back. Just like Justin Timberlake and Sexy, bringing those INTs back.
What I find hilarious is everyone always praises Aaron Rodgers, which, by the way, it's shocking he's not on this list.
That was one of my biggest surprises, too.
Because Aaron Rodgers is the best at knowing when someone's offsides and taking that play.
And
so
Mahomes is right there with him.
Mahomes is great,
brilliant.
too, but Mahomes might get even more aggressive or put the ball in harm's. I mean, Aaron Rodgers I thought would be probably number 1 on this list because of the fact, but one, that's a huge shout out to Aaron Rodgers for still even knowing it's a free play, not getting it picked off. But he gets praised for that, and somehow it's used as a negative for Mahomes, which makes absolutely 0 sense.
But it's not used as a negative for Mahomes because people didn't break it down like this until Joseph Hefner at KCSN, because people just looked at it and said Mahomes' interception was called back because of the defensive holding on Travis Kelce. So therefore, he gets protected.
End of the day, I laugh at all these things because Bengals fans and just regular NFL fans use this to try and make themselves feel better. Try to understand why their team isn't winning. Why the Chiefs are back-to-back Super Bowl champions, have won 3 Super Bowls in the last 5 years. All this great stuff, right? And when their team wins, it's not rigged. Oh, no, it's not rigged.
No.
But when the team that they're playing against wins, it's rigged. It has to be. And sometimes what it comes down to is you have a Hall of Fame head coach and a Hall of Fame quarterback, and you have a Hall of Fame tight end, all these phenomenal players. Like, the Chiefs are just the better team. Whatever these people claim, whatever they think, whatever they want to believe deep in their hearts, the actuality is the Chiefs are back-to-back Super Bowl champions, and they're 2-0. For all the smack talk of Isaiah Likely after the game, they're 0-2.
Well, that was the worst they're going to play. The
That's the
Ravens
worst
played
they're
their
gonna
worst
play.
game on Thursday.
For all the Bengals fans who were crying and upset and frustrated, and I get it. Final play of the game, you lose by 1 point and all this stuff. I understand being upset. I get it. You're 0-2. Like, whatever your thoughts are, it doesn't change anything. It's not like you're like, oh, wow, you know what? Maybe Mahomes does get a call. Does that mean you're 1-1 now? You're still 0-2. Nothing changes. It's all coping to try and make yourself feel better. Well, Chiefs fans, don't worry about those guys. Don't get into arguments with them on Twitter. Don't
tell me what to do.
Don't yell. Just say 2-0. Just say back-to-back Super Bowl champions.
I don't type in caps. I'm not yelling. Not doing that.
Please don't say I was mad. Please don't tell the newspapers I was mad.
I'm not mad. You're mad. You cope.
Why
don't you figure this out? I'll wait.
It just makes me happy to an extent that everyone complains so much when their team loses, and nothing's going to change. The Chiefs are still the favorite to win the Super Bowl. They're 2-0, and they're back-to-back Super Bowl champions on their quest for a three-peat. All those fans that complain, it ain't changing, so kick rocks.
Just like the most touchdowns nullified by penalties, and you break it down with holding, offensive pass interference, blocking the back, other, and then there's illegal formation. Holmes, 1, illegal formation.
This side's so much more fun.
Kadarius Toney.
Like, this side is so much more fun.
That's great. Yeah,
I would rather, I just, to
100%.
Sterling's point, I just ignore them now because, like we're saying, it is so emotionally driven. They are not running to their phones to tweet about all the missed calls that don't go the Chiefs' favor because they're not rooting for the Chiefs. They're on their couch watching us in prime time, rooting against us. They're hate watching. And so emotionally, when a call doesn't go the team's way that they're rooting for, that's when they go to Twitter.
So let's do this as well. Let's talk about this stat too. Because this came up with the it's roughing the passer. Mahomes is going to get protected constantly. Going back to 2018, Mahomes' first year starting. Roughing the passer calls, we can look at the raw numbers, and we can look at roughing the passer calls per passing attempt. So let's look at the raw numbers. The most roughing the passer calls for a quarterback since 2018. Do you guys want to take a shot as to who has had the most roughing the passer calls called as a quarterback?
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen is number 1 with 34.
Tom Brady, too.
No.
I just think of Chris Jones touching him. That's all I think about.
Well, this is since 2018, so you got I'll go back and look. I didn't include.
Yeah, but he played until 2022.
He did.
It feels like every time I
23?
watch a Bills game, there's a roughing the passer on Josh Allen.
Josh Allen does, and part of it is, I will say, I feel bad for the defense because he's so hard to bring down.
He is Big Ben. He's like this generation's Big Ben Roethlisberger of it's very hard. He's almost a defensive end playing quarterback.
So you have to almost rough him to even get him down. Like I think Jalen Hurts kind of the same way too because Jalen Hurts is so strong. Where it's like I don't understand how the defense. Again, sorry, this is a tangent here, but if you're a defensive player, odds are you might rough him because that's the only way you can bring the dude down.
Yeah.
No, Tom Brady has 11 since 2018.
Okay.
Josh Allen has 34 since 2018. Tied at 34 though. With Josh Allen, another protected quarterback. Very protected. A quarterback that the league is going out of their way to make sure he stays.
I can sense the sarcasm here, so I know that it's a not great quarterback. It's a middle-tier quarterback, if I'm guessing right.
Jared Goff.
Yep.
34 roughing the passer calls against Jared Goff, called in favor of Jared Goff, tied with Josh Allen. Next in line at 29, the man isn't playing anymore. We talked to him over the summer.
Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan with 29. Coming in at 28 is a man who's not starting anymore. Still playing.
Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson with 28. Well done. Coming in at 27, a man who is playing and played very recently. I mean, very recently played football.
Cousins.
Kirk Cousins with 27. Next is Mahomes with 26, the most protected quarterback.
A lot of statues.
With 8 fewer roughing the passer calls with almost 1,000 more passing attempts than Josh Allen.
A lot of immobile quarterbacks in that category.
Almost 1,000 more passing attempts than Josh Allen, but 8 fewer roughing the passer calls than Josh Allen. Right behind Patrick Mahomes. You know, Patrick Mahomes, the most protected quarterback in the NFL. The guy that the NFL goes out of their way to make sure he does not get injured. Is a man who is actually on the Chiefs as well.
Carson Wentz.
Carson Wentz with 25.
Well, it's just Chiefs. They probably all...
You understand how protected Patrick Mahomes is that he's got one more roughing the passer call than his backup quarterback does since 2018?
That's crazy.
Dak Prescott, 21.
How many games has Carson Wentz even played?
I can tell you Carson Wentz has had 2 roughing the passer calls since 2021.
I was going to say, yeah, it's been
and he's got
years.
1 less than Mahomes. Anyway, Dak Prescott, 21. Ryan Fitzpatrick, 19. And he ain't played since 2021.
Yeah.
Ryan Fitzpatrick hasn't had a roughing the passer call since 2020. And he's at 19. He's had 7 fewer than Mahomes, and he hasn't had one called since 2020.
One name that I think is glaring that I know Ravens fans, and this is just even me, Lamar Jackson takes some brutal hits sometimes, and I'm always shocked that he never gets called.
So Fitzpatrick with 19. Next in line, tied at 13, is 2 quarterbacks, Lamar and Deshaun Watson. He doesn't need any penalties. Lamar, though, is a guy. Deshaun Watson has 9 more civil suits than roughing the passer calls. And those civil suits just in the last couple of years, too. That's going back to 2018 for Deshaun Watson and roughing the passer calls. Lamar Jackson has 13. Joe Burrow with only 10. So if the Bengals have a beef about Burrow, that would be one of the... Now, we'll look at the passing attempts because, again, there's fewer passing attempts. He didn't play in 18 and 19. Missed most of the season in 20, missed most of the season in 23, but still only 10 in that time. So those are the quarterbacks that are still playing or are high enough on this list that the name deserves to be said even though they're not playing anymore. But those are the raw numbers. What about passing attempts? So let's look at the most in passing attempts. Let me sort this. Custom sort. Let's go by M.
Wow.
Let's go to largest. Do we want to do small? Do you like smallest to largest or largest to smallest? Do you want to know who has
largest to smallest?
Okay.
By the way, do you know how many games Burrow's played in his career?
I'm not sure.
54. That's less than 3.5 seasons.
So if we're looking at the most protected quarterbacks, these are the guys who have the most roughing the passer calls per, or how many pass attempts it takes to get a roughing call. Ryan Fitzpatrick gets a roughing call since 2018 every 54 passing attempts.
That's like every other game.
Ryan Fitzpatrick got a roughing the passer every 54 passing attempts. Carson Wentz, 91 passing attempts. Matt Ryan, 99. Josh Allen, 105. Now, how does that compare to the other quarterbacks we're talking about in this group? Josh Allen, 105 passing attempts to get a roughing the passer call. Patrick Mahomes, 165. It's two more games worth of passes for Mahomes per roughing the passer call. Josh Allen, 105 passing attempts for every roughing the passer call in his career. Patrick Mahomes, 165. Lamar Jackson, 183. And this is where if Bengals fans want to have a beef about Burrow, Burrow's at 221. It's more than double Josh Allen. Josh Allen's at 105. Burrow's at 221. So if Bengals fans have a beef, it ain't with Mahomes. It's not with Patrick Mahomes.
It's with Ryan Fitzpatrick.
It's with Ryan, obviously, and Carson Wentz. It's with the Chiefs quarterback, Carson Wentz. It's with Josh Allen. Now, I would love to know how Josh Allen has a roughing the passer every 105 attempts when he runs the ball as much as he does, and Lamar Jackson has one every 183 attempts.
So I was actually going to see if I could explain that stat, because what I'm seeing from all these quarterbacks is a lot of them, they're not Tom Brady. Tom Brady's not on that list, and Joe Burrow's not on that list because they get the ball out quick and they know exactly where the football needs to go immediately.
And Tom Brady, when you look at like going back to like 2009, like Tom Brady's total roughing the passers, if you look at Tom Brady's per passing attempt since 2009, his is incredibly low because he played in an era when they weren't calling roughing the passer as much.
True.
It ended up changing for Tom Brady.
Yeah.
But it's called much more frequently now than it was then, so it is a little skewed. So right around 16, 17, 18 is when you start to see roughing the passer calls you know, really take an uptick in the NFL.
And he had gotten older at that point, so even more so they were trying to get the football
great point
out
on
of
Burrow,
his hand.
how quickly he's getting rid of the ball. He does get sacked a lot, though.
Yeah.
And he does get hit a lot.
That is true.
But
the other guys, though, they, like, Allen's up there because he's got the Big Ben aspect of, I'm trying to make a play till the last second, and that almost invites, you know, those fringe.
Mahomes invites the
Mahomes definitely
That's
does.
what I was
That is
told.
true.
I was told Mahomes, and I'm being a smart ass.
Well, I don't disagree. I think Mahomes does sometimes. And Lamar
I'm talking about Mahomes when he gets to the sideline. People say that Mahomes gets there and then
Allen does it too,
takes
a
the
little
hit
bit.
while stepping out of
Everyone
bounds.
does, though. I mean, but Lamar did it against the Chiefs.
But like those other quarterbacks are all statues, and they also have not as, you know, a quick processing mind as Tom or Joe or maybe something.
Point.
So they're always a sitting duck for those defensive ends, and they're also getting the ball out the last second, so it invites the, you know, fringe of.
It's an interesting point.
roughing.
I would love to know with Lamar, while roughing the passer is every 183 passing attempts, does he have more late hits or unnecessary roughnesses against him when he's outside of the? When he's a runner, it's no longer roughing the passer.
Right.
Agreed.
So, I don't know the answer to that.
I just think you don't get a good
I just thought about that as you were talking about the guys that get the ball out quickly, or Josh Allen being a runner.
Yeah.
But it is interesting, Josh Allen being a running quarterback and a guy who's as big, because typically the bigger guys are not as protected.
Right.
They're and even Big Ben in that list of.
But kind of similar playing style of, like, I'm holding on to the ball to the very last second because I might make a play.
I'm going to get hit.
And the defensive end's going to be a half second late, and we're protecting quarterbacks now.
This is interesting, actually. I was wrong. I was going to say I haven't seen many roughing the passer calls this season. I was wondering if it was down. There's been 15 roughing the passer calls this season. There were 99 last year, 93 the year prior. When they changed that one to, what was it, in 21 was 154. That might have been the first year of the body weight. I can't remember if that was if that was correct or not. But
what was the year, the first year of the body weight?
Oh, I don't know, but I was going to bring up the point of the statue quarterbacks. Like, think of Derek Carr and Chris Jones, the roughing the passer. Mm-hmm. If Mahomes and those guys, their athleticism allows them to maybe move at the last second, they avoid, for the defensive end, the body weight roughings versus like a Tannehill, a Tom Brady, a Kirk Cousins, who's a statue just sitting there so that when you hit him, you're just landing on top of him as Chris Jones did.
Well, it's also like when people talk about who the protected quarterbacks are. Do you know the two quarterbacks that have multiple roughing the passer calls this year? There are two quarterbacks that have had multiple. There's only two of them that have two different roughing the passer calls against them or for them. Jared Goff.
Okay.
And Deshaun Watson have two. Let me tell you about protected quarterbacks in the NFL. The referees are going out of their way to make sure Deshaun Watson is not touched. If there's a golden child in the NFL that the NFL definitely wants to keep healthy and on the field playing as much as possible, it's Deshaun, serial sexual predator Watson. That's his nickname, actually. SSP.
What I would say, and I'm typically team defense in this instance because I think it is so hard, right? I think it's so difficult to try and take down these guys. It's so hard when you're running full speed to not put your body weight on them. Again, the 154 and 21, I need to look back if that was when the body weight thing first came into view. If that was like, hey, we're going to throw it now, because then it was 93 and 22. It was 99 and 23. There's been 15 and 32 games this season, which is pretty high ratio so far. But I did notice one. It was the Houston game, I believe, against the Bears. And I can't remember if it was Danielle Hunter or not. Someone absolutely laid out the quarterback. Full body weight. I mean, it looked like he was launched from a cannon. And I'm so glad they didn't call it. But also, I'm like, that should be a flag. So I wonder if they're going to try and ease back on that. Because, again, when you have such mobile quarterbacks and you try and
That was the flying squirrel.
the flying
sack.
was, I think that was that Danielle Hunter against
on
Caleb Williams. Yeah, like,
when the right tackle. That's one of the worst blocks I've ever seen a professional offensive lineman attempt.
yeah, that was.
But it was the flying squirrel.
Yeah, but see, I'm okay with that because that's how you bring these guys down. You have to, or else.
Yeah, I'm okay with it
Or
not
else
being
Breland
called.
speaks it.
I'm okay with it not being called, but also by the letter of the law and how they were enforcing it.
That should have been the
That is
definition of a penalty. So I was wondering.
absolutely roughing.
That's why I was surprised. We've already seen 15, 32 games when
Yeah.
my again, the ones I have seen
Right.
have not been called. So
Yeah.
I'm intrigued to see how it goes as the season progresses.
But I just love that stat that was being circulated about Mahomes, about how he's getting all these interceptions called back and nullified by penalty. He, in fact, has a lower percentage of non-defensive offsides, interceptions nullified by penalty with the number of passing attempts than all of these other quarterbacks out there, and especially Joe Burrow. Twice the percentage of Mahomes when you eliminate offsides. Lucy, you got some explaining to do, Bengals fans. It ain't working in your favor. You should try again. Go back to the drawing board and try again. This Chiefs team, they are 2-0. Regardless of how it came to be, they are undefeated. They have the tiebreaker over both the Ravens and the Bengals, and they get ready for the Falcons. The Falcons team that knocked off the Eagles last night in Philly. We'll talk about some of the conversation coming out of that game because I ain't a Nick Sirianni fan. We've talked about it. We know that. I question the third down call, although I question it more, it feels like more after the fact because, catch the ball. It's a great play call. It's first down. Saquon catches it. But the criticism he was getting last night for going for it on fourth down and not getting it in the first quarter was a little reputational. All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We'll talk with Les Norman coming up at noon. Some Royals conversation. They dropped the game one of the series against the Tigers last night. 2 games left against Detroit. 11 games left on the season. And they have a 4-game lead in the wild card. Les Norman will talk with him about this Royals team. Right now, let's talk some Chiefs football, some NFL football. Adam Teicher from ESPN, presented by Twin Peaks, joining us here in the zone. Adam, what is up, brother? How are you, sir?
Good, Jason. How you doing?
I am doing just fine. Let's talk about the game in general, then we'll get into Isaiah Pacheco and some of the other particulars. But general takeaway from what you saw from the Chiefs on Sunday in getting the 1-point victory.
Yeah, you can't make big mistakes like the Bengals made and expect to win a game like that against the Chiefs. And we I think we already knew that, but we just got another example of it. The Jamar Chase penalty and the pass interference on 4th and 16 and the Joe Burrow fumble. I mean, you've got to take care of business against the Chiefs in those kind of games, or they're going to find a way. And so I feel like that loss was really on the Bengals. They had a lot of things under their control in that game, but sort of self-destructed, and the Chiefs were certainly good enough to take advantage.
It is interesting. We're talking about some of the mistakes the Bengals made when the Chiefs were -2 in turnover differential.
Yeah. Well, them too. I mean, them too. But I feel like the Bengals kind of earned some of those things. I think they made really nice plays to go ahead and get those turnovers. Not to diminish the play on the Joe Burrow fumble. I mean, that was also a nice play by the Chiefs, but. Jamar Chase, I have no idea what he's thinking there. And, one of the most interesting things that I saw when I was watching that play is when he's over there going off on the referee, it was only Joe Burrow over there pushing him away. Like the rest of the Bengals either didn't see it or just didn't want to see it. Can you imagine if Travis Kelce was arguing with the referee in the fourth quarter of a big game like Jamar Chase was, or it doesn't have to be Kelce. It could have been Rice or Xavier Worthy. Can you imagine Patrick Mahomes having to be the one who pushed the player away? I mean, I would think that every offensive lineman the Chiefs had would have been over there pushing Chase away. So I thought that was really odd in that situation. It was like they wanted him to get thrown out of the game or something. It was just a really weird scene.
And a lot of times if a player complains to that degree, he's got a point. But he did not have a point. It was not a hip drop tackle. And the NFL is not calling hip drop tackles in the first 2 weeks, even though they put that in there, and it's going to be a 15-yard penalty. But they haven't called one yet. And there have been a couple of injuries from hip drop tackles. Joe Mixon, Jordan Addison, but that was not one of them. But you've got a guy who held in the entire offseason and training camp and gets out there and is not having a good game. We can talk about McDuffie and his impact on the game with Jamar Chase, but the biggest impact Jamar Chase probably had on the game is the fact that, it was going to be a 3rd and short that turned out to be a 3rd and long because he couldn't keep his cool, even with the official giving him a pretty long leash. I mean, he let him, argue for a while until Joe Burrow came over there, tried to get him away, and then Jamar Chase started back up and eventually got the penalty. It took a lot for that flag to come out eventually.
Yeah, I mean, he looked like he was bound and determined to get his money's worth there.
He's like really a manager that wanted to get tossed from the game. Like, I'm going to get tossed from this game.
Maybe he was like, hey, throw me out. I can't catch a ball on McDuffie here. I don't know, but that was just a weird scene and a weird time of game. And stuff happens. Travis Kelce got himself thrown out of that game a few years ago in a similar situation, and so stuff happens. But I just this is the Chiefs and the Bengals have had these classic, one play determines these games over the years, and for him to do that at that time of the game was just bizarre. Yeah,
Adam Teicher is our guest from ESPN. He is presented by Twin Peaks. Let's talk about the big news that came from that game, and that is Isaiah Pacheco. News yesterday, he will have surgery later on this week. The timeline will be determined after surgery is over. What does this do for the Chiefs now without Isaiah Pacheco, in your opinion, moving forward for however long he's out?
Yeah, I mean, I think in a vacuum they could survive this just fine. If Hollywood Brown was around and if Kingsley Suamataia, it hadn't played the way he did the other day. I think if there weren't some other problems offensively, I think you'd be able to say, okay, they can withstand this. But now it's another part of the pattern here that this thing isn't working out offensively like the Chiefs hoped it might, and in terms of personnel out there. So I don't think there's any way to diminish it in that light. That they're going to miss him in a big way. They don't have anybody else on their roster, and I would probably throw Kareem Hunt in there if the Chiefs sign him. I don't think they have anybody who's capable of doing for them what Pacheco did against the Bengals. With the 24 touches and the the 90 yards rushing, and I just hey, somebody's going to take those snaps, but can you get that kind of production? Right. I wonder about that.
That's exactly right. Yeah, somebody is going to get the handoffs or some passes out of the backfield, but what do they do with that ball when it's in their hands? Who are the candidates? Do they move forward with Carson Steele? Do you think they sign and bring back Kareem Hunt to be a part of this running back room? Elevate somebody, go find somebody off the practice squad. I mean, Deneric Prince is in Miami if they want to go that route. Of course, they've already, pulled the cord on that anyway when they released him and didn't bring him to the practice squad. So who are the candidates, do you think, now moving forward until if Pacheco gets back?
Well, I think the Chiefs could get through the game on Sunday with P. Ryan and Carson Steele and then one of the two guys off the practice squad. I mean, I think you can get through a game. It's going to be hard to get through a season that way, I think. So they're going to have to bring somebody in. And, I feel like if the Chiefs really were that convicted about Deneric Prince, they would have kept him around, not necessarily on the 53, but on the practice squad. They gave him a really good look at training camp. I mean, he got consistently, day after day, a lot of really good looks. They wanted to see what they had, and they feel like they got their answer, that he wasn't worth keeping around. So I wonder how much Kareem Hunt has left. He's a 29-year-old running back at a position where those guys kind of get old quickly, and it's kind of one of his least productive seasons in the NFL. Only averaged 3 yards a carry last year. So, what does he have left, and can he help them? I wonder about that. So I don't think there are any easy answers. There's no silver, magic prince going to ride in and be a great running back for the Chiefs. I think they're going to have to go with the guys they've got as the main guys, and then supplement with some, maybe Kareem Hunt or somebody else who can hold down the fort until Pacheco comes back.
Is it fewer running plays in your mind, Adam, or do they have to adjust other parts of their offense to make up for no Pacheco with whoever they have back there?
Yeah, I think they do. I mean, he was becoming a pretty versatile guy, and I think maybe you can piece something together with Carson Steele and Samaje Perine, and you certainly can't telegraph your play intentions by who's in the game. I mean, Samaje Perine's going to have to run the ball some. He can't just play in passing situations. And Carson Steele's going to have to play some in passing situations. He can't just play on running down. So, it's a dilemma. I mean, they don't really have somebody who, at least at this point of their career, is quite as versatile as Pacheco is. So it's a dilemma, no doubt. They're going to have to scramble a little bit.
We obviously know the Chiefs will miss the actual literal production from Isaiah Pacheco when he's on the field. How much do you think Isaiah Pacheco's personality, energy, intensity on the field, not just being a guy on the sideline that can pump up his teammates, but a guy that's on the field and running the way that he does, popping up, tossing the football, that sort of mentality that he has? And I know Carson Steele is a tough runner, but there's something different about Pacheco. How much do you think they'll miss that intangible part of what Pacheco brings to this offense?
No, I think they'll miss it. Yeah, some players have talked about that they really appreciate his energy and have him out there and get them through a tough game or a tough situation or whatever. So, yeah, I think there is something to that. I mean, the Chiefs have other guys who can maybe fill at least some of that void. I don't know, Travis Kelce maybe or certainly Patrick Mahomes, but and I think there's a little bit of that in Carson Steele, maybe not to the extent there is in Isaiah Pacheco, but maybe I think there's a little bit of that in him. So, but he's a rookie, and what can you realistically expect from him? So, yeah, that's part of the loss here, no doubt. I feel like I've been saying this about Travis Kelce when the Chiefs lose him, whenever he decides he's leaving. They're going to miss that production on the field, no doubt, but they're going to miss a lot more with that guy. There's a ton of stuff that comes in that with Travis Kelce, and I really wonder how the Chiefs are going to handle replacing not just the on the field stuff, but all the energy they get from him the year round, really.
Adam Deich is our guest from ESPN, presented by Twin Peaks. Last one on the running back situation. I'll set the over-under at 10.5. You know what? I'm going to set it at 11.5 for Carson Steele on Sunday against the Falcons. Would you take overall touches? So if he catches any passes, runs, whatever it is, 11.5. Are you taking the over or the under on Carson Steele specifically?
11.5. You might have had me at 10.5, but 11.5. I don't like it when the line moves like that.
There was a lot of money that came in late.
It's like the people who set the odds know something that you don't. So I would have said over maybe, but I think I'm going to say under if I had to go on that.
So you're thinking right around 11.
Yeah, I don't know that any one guy is going to get the ball a ton this week. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this game will play out where the Chiefs are running the ball a little more to protect the lead or work some clock or something like that. So I don't know. Those things can be tough, but I'll take the under on 11.5.
Okay. Adam Teicher from ESPN is our guest. Let's talk about Kingsley. And that was If week one, like, I don't know,
not your favorite subject to bring up, right?
Well, I mean, it's just it ain't great moving forward. I mean, we've talked about Pacheco not being there, Hollywood Brown out for your guy Adam Schefter at ESPN said that it's most likely not going to play in the regular season, so not a season ender, but a regular season ender for Hollywood. And now this left tackle situation. If it was a letter grade, I guess week one, I would give it a pass. I don't even know, maybe C-, but you would pass the class, right, or the test, whatever. Obviously, it's a fail in this one. What was going on in from what you saw as to why the Chiefs ultimately decided to take him out of the game? Was it an inability thing? Was it a between the ears and a confidence thing? Maybe it's a combination there. What did you see from the rookie left tackle as to why Wanya ended up coming up in the game, those last possession?
I think it was all of that. And to me, the scary part was not just that it got to the point where the Chiefs felt like they had to bench him. Mm-hmm. To me, the scary part is Andy Reid didn't know what he was going to do at left tackle. And that, to me, is the part that should worry Chiefs fans the most, because this really shook their confidence in him. If they're not going right back to him. You remember last year the Chiefs played the Jaguars earlier in the year, and Juwan Taylor kept getting penalized. And finally the Chiefs took him out of the game. They benched him for a while. But there was never any thought that they weren't going to go back to Juwan Taylor, that they just felt like he needed to cool off for a little while and watch the game rather than play it for a little while. Well, that's not what's going on here, evidently. I mean, that's not to say they won't eventually start Suamataia on Sunday in Atlanta, but they evidently don't have that same conviction that he's their guy next week, because I felt like Andy Reid was going to answer that. He was going to say, yeah, we're going back to him. And the fact that he didn't should be really troubling. So I think that's the worst part of this, that we've seen the Chiefs make this kind of move with a struggling offensive lineman before, but they always went right back to him. And now they seem to be concerned that he's not their best option. And that's the first time they've sort of made that admission with their words, certainly, but also with their actions as well.
I wonder how much his confidence was just simply shot in that game, to where they went, all right, we got to take him out of the game because he's in his head. He's already thinking that he can't get it done. Trey Hendrickson is barking at him before the snap. Like it was like the program and the linebacker where the offensive lineman knew he was toast before the snap even took place. So, okay, we got to get him out of there. And I wonder if there's, from Andy Reid's perspective of, okay, is he your starter? Well, I don't know. And in the mind of, Andy Reid going, He's the starter if he gets his mind right this week. If he gets that confidence back, if he believes in himself, if he, goes out there thinking he's going to get the job done. But that's going to happen in practice this week, and we don't see it. He ain't starting, and so I guess it's an easier way of just presenting it as we'll figure that out as we go along. Who's going to be starting there at left tackle? I think it's left open for Kingsley to figure it out this week. That are you going to be starting? Well, that's on you. Because even Mahomes said after the game, Adam, that, hey, you know what, bad games are going to happen. You got to keep your mind right. I didn't have a great game, but between these, you got to keep your confidence up. And I wonder if Kingsley was just, confidence shattered after that game.
Yeah, and but at some point the Chiefs have to help him with that. I don't know that it helps the situation when Andy Reid the day after the game gets asked who's the starter, and he's not. I feel like if I'm Suamata'i and I hear my head coach say, "Well, I don't know," I'm not feeling real great about the situation. I mean, it's not the Chiefs' job to be delicate around him or anything like that. I mean, he's a pro; he's getting paid for this. But I feel like maybe there's some things they can do to boost him up a little bit. I mean, he's only 21 years old. He only played really 2 years in college. He had the third year, but he didn't play. So he's still learning what he's doing here. And I know the Chiefs anticipated some ups and downs with him because I've had that conversation with some people. They understood that he was a young guy who was still learning. So that's why, to me, this is all really weird because all of a sudden, was that bad enough to where you're just going to just basically bail on the guy? Not that I think he'll start, even if he doesn't start in Atlanta, I think he'll be a starter again eventually at some point, maybe later this season or somewhere down the road. But just to bail on him as quickly as the Chiefs did, that was kind of, and again, not just the benching part of it, but the saying he's not going to start on, or he may not start on Sunday. It was kind of weird.
I'd also like to know, on those last two plays that he was in on. So the what ended up being the sack on 2nd down and 6, and then the holding call on 3rd down and 10 with that long pass to Kelsey and the fake lateral and everything when Kingsley got called for the hold. Those were back-to-back plays. And, when I watch the play and specifically look at Kingsley, on that 2nd down and 6, it looks like he overcorrects to the outside that, Trey Hendrickson isn't going to beat him to the outside, and Hendrickson just cuts inside, and it's a direct path to Patrick Mahomes. But it looked like, hey, there was a running back coming out there, so maybe he had chip help, and he should have been down on the inside to keep Trey Hendrickson from a direct shot. The very next play, Adam, when he got the holding penalty, it looked like he made sure that the inside part was not available, and I think it was Pacheco that was next to Kingsley, and he ran right by Hendrickson. No chip, no shoulder, and Hendrickson beats Suamata'i around the outside. I would love to know, is that the way the play was supposed to happen? Was Suamata'i overcorrecting to the inside because he had chip help to the outside? He couldn't get the power. He wanted to keep the power from Hendrickson, and the speed was going to be limited by the running back that was going to chip. But he didn't have that, and Hendrickson just went right around him, and then that's when he grabbed the shoulder pads and didn't know that Mahomes was 10 yards away from him running the other way. But I would love to know both those plays, that 2nd down and 3rd down, there was a running back that went to Kingsley's side, and neither time the running back made contact with him. And even on the illegal hands to the face to Trey Hendrickson, with Wanya Morris, Samaje Perine slides right past Trey Hendrickson and doesn't touch him on his way out for a route. I don't know if that was the plan or if the running backs just didn't do their job.
Yeah, I don't know, but you would think from their actions that at least the plays with Suamata'i that the Chiefs think it was his fault. Yeah. I mean, if it's kind of funny benching him if you think that Isaiah Pacheco messed up, I see what you're saying, but I think it was more the Chiefs felt like this was on him.
Yeah. Adam Teicher from ESPN is our guest, presented by Twin Peaks. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll talk about some things that looked really good for the Chiefs. Rashee Rice is looking like a stud. And then the Atlanta Falcons come up on Sunday. They knock off the Eagles last night. Good news, bad news for the Chiefs. We'll talk to Adam about that. Coming up, more Zone right after this. 7 WHB, Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels. Let's continue our conversation with our Chiefs insider from ESPN, Adam Teicher, presented by Twin Peaks. Adam, we've talked about some things that have not gone in the Chiefs' favor so far, and it's a rough start to be 2-0 like this. With all the things that have worked against them so far, but
they're really struggling here.
It's a tough spot for them to be in, to have the tiebreaker and still be 2-0 with the things that have happened. But they are going to have to overcome Isaiah Pacheco, like we talked about. They got to figure out left tackle and what's going to happen at wide receiver. But they do have one thing going in their favor, and that's Rashee Rice looks even better than the way he ended the season. How good do you think Rashee Rice can be? This is early in his second year. He's seventh in it's 2 games only, so the minimal data that's coming in. But he's seventh in the NFL in yards receiving of all wide receivers, of all players. In fact, how good can Rashee Rice grow into a legit, like, true number one receiver? Not just he's the number one receiver on a team, but hey, you know what? This guy's a number one in the NFL.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's on a Pro Bowl level, I think, the first 2 games of the season. I mean, he does. He looks like a different guy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were to give out the Chiefs MVP, 2 games, so small sample size, who would you give it to? I mean, maybe McDuffie, maybe Chris Jones, but I think I would give it to Rashee Rice through 2 games.
He's definitely the offensive MVP, that's for sure. I don't think there's any question about that.
I think so, and I don't know that I expect that to continue necessarily. I mean, Mahomes will overtake him at some point, but right now I think he's having that that value for the Chiefs. He has been that good.
Visiting with Adam Teicher, if healthy, do you think he has a legitimate chance of leading the league in yards receiving? I asked that because I put $1 on him at 50-1, so there'd be a nice little $50 payoff at the end. So just say yes, Adam, and we'll move on.
You may get your money. I don't know. I mean, I don't think even at 50-1, I don't think I'd make that bet. But hey, you know,
it was $1.
Somebody's going to have to get those yards for the Chiefs, and it's not going to be Hollywood Brown.
Right.
And so far, at least, it hasn't been Travis Kelce.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's going to have to get those yards, and he's as good as a bet as any right now on the Chiefs, no doubt.
Well, and I think, again, it's only through 2 games so far. But, like, if you look around at the competition, I think, Nico Collins is off to an amazing start, and he's got 252 yards receiving. So he would be the odds-on favorite right now because that's a really good offense, too. And Chris Godwin has 200, but he's been off and injured, and there's Mike Evans there. Jamison Williams has 200, but you've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, and is Williams just going to be like a big play guy? And if big plays don't happen, is he going to have a game with like 15 or 20 yards receiving? Malik Neighbors is in 4th, but he's got Daniel Jones throwing him the ball. Justin Jefferson now has a quad injury, so how long he's out? Alec Pierce has been a big play receiver so far for Anthony Richardson, but is he going to be a consistent guy? And then behind Rashee Rice is Devontae Adams with, Gardner Minshew throwing him the ball. Rashid Shaheed, that has 170 yards on 7 catches, so he's been a big play guy. Deebo Samuel, he's going to be out for a couple of weeks. Devontae Smith when A.J. Brown comes back. DK Metcalf and Jackson Smith and Jigba. And Tyreek Hill is right there, but Tyreek Hill now, no longer has Tua for however long. CeeDee Lamb is right around there, too, so those would be the one. Cooper Kupp is going to be out for an extended period of time. We just found out Sean McVay said that, and he's, 20 yards behind Rashee Rice. I mean, if healthy, I think there's a legitimate chance that he's, top 3 or 4, certainly top 5 in yards receiving in the NFL, and he's got a chance of leading the league this year. When you're looking at some of the guys around him and behind him with what they're facing already early in the season, like Jaden Reed now has Malik Willis throwing him the football for a while. That's going to hurt his chances.
Yeah, and, you said something earlier that I think will not happen to Rashee Rice. You're talking about, I think it was Jamison Williams. You're like, well, yeah. I mean, he might have one of these games where he has 10 or 15 yards. I can't see Rashee Rice having one of those games right now where he's 1 catch for 8 yards or something like that. Yeah. Certainly the opponents could do that if they want to, but and maybe at some point they'll have to adjust. But right now, it's really hard to picture that. I think he's got enough going on, and the Chiefs have enough for him in the playbook that I do think that he's going to be there consistently for the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think the main threats are going to be Nico Collins and CeeDee Lamb and Rashee Rice. I think we might be talking about those three if he's healthy. Travis Kelce, is there anything to where what he's done these first couple of weeks is age, or is it what Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid has talked about, that teams have gone out of their way to make sure he's not the one that's going to beat them?
Yeah, I don't think this is a guy who's hit the that wall that everybody eventually gets to. I don't see that with him. But having said that, he's going to be 35 here in a couple of weeks, and he's not going to be what he was probably earlier in the season. So I think there's going to be less of those huge games that he's had over the years. But the Chiefs built their passing game for that eventuality. They signed Hollywood Brown, they drafted Xavier Worthy, they developed Rashee Rice. They knew this day was coming. So I think if the Chiefs need big games from Travis Kelce to be successful in the passing game and to win games, that's not a good thing. They got to have this thing has to shift a little bit, and I think we're seeing it to Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy, and the Chiefs hoped Hollywood Brown as well. That the burden has to shift off Travis Kelce. There can't be the expectation that he's going to be able to Chiefs out as often as he has in the past. I mean, I think he'll have those kinds of games, just maybe not as often.
Visiting with Adam Teicher from ESPN, presented by Twin Peaks. Let's talk about the defense. They continued their streak of not allowing 28 points, so there is something to be said for that. The Ravens score 20. The Bengals get to 25 in the game, and that is 10, 13 points coming off of turnovers for the Chiefs that the defense gave up, including a 31-yard touchdown drive for the Bengals. But tight ends have been a bugaboo. I think the Bengals did a great job of taking advantage of the Chiefs' biggest weaknesses, and that is tight end or a left tackle and linebacker so far early this year. The tight ends against the Chiefs this year with Ravens and Bengals, 25 catches, 276 yards, and a touchdown against the Chiefs. What, if any, is there an adjustment from Spags as to why the tight ends have just been simply destroying the Chiefs so far?
Yeah, if I'm Kyle Pitts, I'm looking forward to this game.
Luckily, they don't have anybody good this Sunday they're going up against.
Yeah, right. He's terrible. So this has been. It was noticeable right away against the Bengals that this just wasn't Isaiah Lively or one guy. The Bengals had a number of guys they were throwing out there who were beating the Chiefs. So the Chiefs. I can't tell you exactly why, but the Chiefs have to figure something out here because that has been a problem. And we talked in past years about the Chiefs defensively, and they particularly last year they played really good defense but didn't take the ball away a lot. Well, this year the turnovers, the takeaways have been the saving thing for the Chiefs defensively. The Chris Jones fumble last week or against Baltimore, and then certainly the strip sack and the Shamari Connor touchdown. I mean, those are the things that have saved the Chiefs defensively from this being a lot worse than it's been.
Yeah, that play in the scoop and score was by far the largest impactful play when you look at the advanced analytics, the expected points, and the percentage, win percentage odds of the Bengals went from like 64 down to 32 with that scoop and score by Shamari Connor. And a great play by Dana and Turk to help knock that ball out. Adam Teicher from ESPN. What do you think of the matchup with the Atlanta Falcons? They played last night, so the Chiefs yet again got to sit back and watch their opponent play football while they were not playing, while they were resting. What do you make of this matchup with the Falcons that just went to Philadelphia and won last night?
I saw a little bit of their game in the opener as well, the Falcons against Pittsburgh, and it's a dramatic improvement last night, certainly offensively, and that was a great drive they put together for the winning touchdown. So I think this is going to be an interesting game, and I think the Falcons do present some problems. We already talked about Kyle Pitts. I mean, that's Bijan Robinson. There's a lot to worry about. Drake London. There's a lot to worry about there. And the Falcons haven't been particularly productive offensively in their 2 games. But I'm thinking that's gonna change at some point. And will it be against a team that's from on a down-to-down basis hasn't been very good defensively in the Chiefs? So are they going to be able to do enough to win the game? I don't know that they will, but I do see maybe a pretty close game here.
Yeah, I'm curious what the Falcons do against, and we'll get your prediction here in a second. I'm curious what the Falcons will do against the Chiefs, because I know that opposing teams do not want to go into the game against the Chiefs and have a high possession game. That's typically strategy number 1. How do we limit possessions and keep the ball away from Patrick Mahomes? That sounds good in theory. But if you're the Falcons, you have to figure out a way to win the game, and they have scored 3 touchdowns this year. 3 touchdowns.
Oh.
2 of them have come in the 2-minute drill. The touchdown before the half against Pittsburgh when Kirk Cousins and that offense drove right down the field in the 2-minute drill and scored a touchdown. And then last night, no timeouts, 1:40 to go, drove right down the field and scored a touchdown. If I'm the Falcons, and maybe there's a little bit of a prevent defense by the Eagles and knowing that they, had to drive the length of the field and score a touchdown. Steelers, though, that wouldn't be prevent defense. You're still in the game. If I'm the Falcons, I do wonder how often I may go up tempo and let Kirk Cousins just get comfortable back there and just play football and get up and go, because he's looked really comfortable on 2 drives, right before half against the Steelers and at the end of the game last night. So if I'm the Chiefs, I should be prepared for the Falcons saying, you know what, let's let Kirk go out there and just run a quick little 2-minute drill, and let's go fast. Let's get some tempo, see if we can get this offense going instead of playing slow, methodical, so that Mahomes stays off the field, because we got to win this game, not just lose close.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but and maybe that works, but I think that's a little risky against,
for sure,
doing that against the Chiefs.
Yep,
I don't.
It is.
You touched on this. That's not really what the way you want to handle it against them. And the other thing is Raheem Morris. I mean, he's a defensive guy. Defensive coaches generally, that has the potential. That strategy has the potential of exposing their defense a lot more than a defensive coach would be comfortable with. So I think from a lot of aspects, I'd be surprised if the Falcons did that.
Yeah, I would just be aware if I'm the Chiefs. I don't think they do that, Adam. I'm with you because of the number of points you brought up. But it is something to think about, that if the Falcons get the ball with like 1:20 to play at the end of the first half, that's when their offense has excelled. And what do the Chiefs do at that point? To try to limit what they can do. Adam Teicher from ESPN is our guest, presented by Twin Peaks. All right, last one. What do you think happens in the game against the Falcons, if you have an early feel for this one? Chiefs, and the line has moved down to 3.5. Opened up at 4.5, now 3.5.
Yeah, well, I'll go out on a limb and say this will not be decided by the last play of the. It will be decided before the last play of the game. I don't think it'll have to come down to a toe tap in the end zone or a 51-yard field goal, but I do think it'll be a close game. So I'll take the Chiefs. Maybe 24-21, something in that range.
24-21, got you down with that. Adam Teicher from ESPN, Chiefs Insider, presented by Twin Peaks. Adam, you're the man as always, brother. Appreciate it. We will talk next week. Enjoy the football.
Good stuff, Jason. Talk to you then.
Absolutely. There's Adam Teicher from ESPN, our Chiefs Insider, joining us as we look at this Chiefs team. And, yeah, there's some things that you're concerned about moving forward. It's better to be concerned about those things by starting 2-0 than to have some real concerns about the team and being 0-2 or 1-1. And if the Chiefs drop a close game at some point this year, the NFL does typically have a way of evening themselves out, and the odds of the Chiefs winning 2 games that are both won on the last play, that you win both of those, it's not typically how the NFL works. Your margin of victory and the teams with the widest margin of victory are typically the teams that go further in the playoffs because they're not playing close 50-50 games. Chiefs don't typically play blowout games either. So it usually is something that goes in their favor more times than not. But yeah, it is something to think about with these first two games. That if they lose a close one, it's the NFL.
Well, two things. One, the Chiefs do play a lot of close games, and typically great teams win close games. That's what separates them. And again, in a league that is defined by parity, where one small play, 1 yard makes a huge difference at times, the Chiefs typically come out the victor. Second thing, it is a good point. You can't win every single one-score game, or at least when you do, it does even out. We saw it with the Vikings a few years ago.
That evened out the next year, though.
but still, what happened in the playoffs?
Yeah, it's a great point.
They lost to, I think, the Giants
they were
in the
like,
playoffs
They were like
year.
8-0 in one-score games, and then their first game in the playoffs, that was a one-score game they lost. And then
wasn't the Giants, if I'm not mistaken?
And then last year they ended up losing a lot of one-score games. Like it evened out pretty quickly.
And so that's the thing is, it's obvious when teams are pretenders. Again, the Chiefs are not pretenders, but you can't consistently win on this close of margin. I'm not saying the Chiefs need to blow every single team out, because that's just not how the NFL is built. But you need to have at least a little more comfortability down the road. That a 51-yard field goal can't be the difference every single game.
I don't think this game will be a comfortable victory for the Chiefs. I don't think any part of this game will feel comfortable, and where you're just sort of like, cool, the Chiefs are just doing their thing. This is all good. I have concerns about what the Falcons can bring to the table with Raheem Morris being a defensive guy.
Sure.
That defensive line getting after the Eagles from time to time and sacking Jalen Hurts. Now, Jalen Hurts put on his running shoes. He put on those Forrest Gump. I was running, and that was a big difference for them. But he was getting sacked, and Matthew Judon was doing his thing. It's something to be concerned about with the Chiefs, certainly. But that offense looks pretty anemic unless they're going no huddle, unless they're going 2-minute drill.
Such a good point.
And Kirk Cousins is just, and
also our defense would have to play like super soft prevent the entire drive too.
Right, but I mean, like, before half against the Steelers is when the Falcons went down and scored one of their 3 touchdowns. Last night at the end of the game, they went down and scored one of their 3 touchdowns. They've scored 3 touchdowns, one of them being a 40-yard pass to Mooney when he broke the tackle, and the other 2 being 2-minute drills to end the half or the game. And I don't think there's a coincidence there. I think when you're learning a new offense with Kirk Cousins, even as smart as he is, I think when you're in the game and the overall game plan, the entire game plan, here are all the different plays you got to know. And when they're coming in on first down and second down and third down, and you're calling the plays and you got everything you're thinking about. In Minnesota, he didn't have to do that because it was in the back of his hand. Boom. I know these plays. I know this offense. Why does he look comfortable in 2-minute drill? Because he's calling the plays.
Yeah.
You're over there. We're going strong. We're doing this. Boom. Take the snap. There's the open guy. Boom. Fire it. Because I'm still accurate. I'm still Kirk Cousins. Boom. Get the next snap. There we go. Open guy. I'm the one calling these plays. We got some tempo. Slow it down. Hands over the ears. Play call coming in. Play number 60 of 72 that we worked on this week.
Yeah. Well, I always find it interesting when defensive coordinators and teams do that, because you've dominated the Falcons defensively when they're on offense the entire game. And then all of a sudden, I know you can't give up a touchdown. You've given up 1 touchdown all game playing your normal defense. Maybe drop the safeties back a little bit, but you don't play prevent. I think we see this way too often where teams get so soft because they play so scared. And then what happens? This happens.
Well, and also when you're in those 2-minute drills, you're also getting less exotic defensive calls from the coordinator.
Correct.
And you're going probably more you're not switching, you're not disguising, you're not calling up blitzes as often because that guy's going fast. Like, you're getting your offense that you feel comfortable in, maybe those early install plays.
Yep.
And you're going up against a defense that's more vanilla. But I don't think there's a chance in hell a defensive coach like Raheem Morris in the middle of the game, not in a 2-minute drill, says, let's go tempo. Let's get no huddle Kirk Cousins right now, middle of the first quarter, our second or third possession. Let's see what we got.
They tried to go with a little more tempo earlier on that game. That actually may have been the drive they scored the touchdown on to
Mooney.
I can't remember if that was a drive, but they did try going a little, again, not the same as a 2-minute drill, obviously, but they tried going more up-tempo at one point, and it did look like it was helping them. We saw Kirk Cousins run from under center way more often because week 1 it was all out of the pistol or all out of shotgun. That was not very helpful for Bijan. It was a huge tell whether it's a run or a pass. There were concerns about was that his movement with his feet. He's never been the most mobile quarterback anyways, so it's kind of moot to an extent. As long as he can get back there and hand the ball off out of under center, he's good. And he was able to against the Eagles. He looked fresher. He looked healthier. He looked, again, more in tune. Again, they only put up 22 points. It wasn't like an offensive explosion. But again, this is a team with a lot of new faces. I mean, even Darnell Mooney, this is a new faces, new quarterback, and they're at least trending the right way.
Yeah, Darnell Mooney looked good last night. It's annoying. I really wanted Mooney on this team. It was Mooney. 913-912-4810. Dylan, you wanted to weigh in real quick before we took a break?
I was just going to say, with the offensive thing and Kirk Cousins, his OC is Zach Robinson, who came from the McVay tree, which is where O'Connell came from, so it can't be that different.
Yeah,
but the Achilles, I think, too, is
it just looks completely – he looks so much more comfortable last night in that last drive. And, again, maybe it was the prevent defense, but it was snap, drop back, throw the ball. Snap, drop back, throw the ball. And maybe you're less worried about, the pass rush when that's happening. I don't know, but there are 2 drives that they have looked the best.
Yeah.
Right before half against the Steelers and the end of the game last night against the Eagles.
And I will say that first pass to Kyle Pitts was the best throw I think he made all game. I mean, it was just an absolute bullet into a guy kind of draped on him. And again, I don't know if it's a confidence thing. I don't know if it's playing a little more relaxed when we have to score a touchdown. No one expects a lot right here. And you play a little more relaxed, maybe make some throws that you couldn't do earlier in the game. But, that is the best Kirk has looked.
And also, like, Raheem Morris, a defensive guy, but in the third quarter, down by a point, and the ball at the 47-yard line, ball at midfield on 4th and 4, he went for it.
On their side.
Yeah.
On their side.
Yeah, it was their own. You're right. It was their own. It was at the 47-yard line on their own side. They went for it, picked it up. The next play was the Darnell Mooney 41-yard touchdown. That's stones to say we're only down a point. It was 10-9 at that point in the third quarter. Like, you're in that game. Andy ain't going for it, but Raheem Morris did. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. More Zone next. right, wrapping up this hour again. Thank you to Adam Teicher joining us in this hour, presented by Twin Peaks. He's from ESPN, talking some Chiefs football, getting ready for the Falcons on Sunday. Updates for the Chiefs and injuries last night. Hollywood Brown tweeting out successful surgery took place yesterday. That is good. So the first step of good news for Hollywood Brown when it's been some rough news all along. And the news coming yesterday late afternoon, mid-afternoon, it was after the show, and that Isaiah Pacheco will have surgery later on this week. And the timeline, the prognosis for Pacheco will be determined after surgery is over. Kareem Hunt in for a workout today for the Chiefs. Les Norman in to break the norm. Talk some Royals coming up next. Radio 810 WHB, Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels. We had up until 2 o'clock. Time to hang out with Les Norman, Breaking the Norm, presented by TruckMovers.com, First Federal Bank of Kansas City, and Biesterveld and Crook. Victim of a wrongful personal injury and seeking compensation, then call Biesterveld and Crook at 913-LAW-5050, 913-LAW-5050. Les, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
I am great, especially after Dylan laying down some scorpions. Doesn't get better than that. I mean, a Def Leppard, sure, but, still amazing. Hope you guys are doing well.
We are doing fine. I just love how quickly it was like laying down scorpions. Doesn't get better than that. Well, it does. Unless it's Def Leppard.
A little bit.
I do like the Scorpions, though. Come on now. The Zoo? Blackout? Yep. Obviously, Rocky like a hurricane, but, man,
obviously.
Scorpions kick ass, dude.
It is not obvious Sterling will rock you like a hurricane. That is not obvious. I just want to get that out there, buddy. Les, what is up, man? How are you, sir?
It's obvious.
Everything is good. Sterling, have you recovered from your debut as a TV star after Sunday Sound Off on Sunday?
Yeah, that was even post-wedding. I mean, I was responsible. I was a responsible young gentleman, right? I'm not even young. I'm a responsible gentleman. I've recovered from all the fan mail, fan hate I've received, actually.
That was from your family, though. That was just
the hate was from the family, actually. It was weird. It was kind of like a weird combo. It was.
Yeah. Les Norman. So the three of us, we were the Sunday Sound Off. It was Les and me and Sterling's first time. It was great. It was a lot of fun. It was like Tuesdays here, only we got to do it with Mick Schaefer.
It was the reunion tour.
That's right. Now, you said, Les, you promised this. You guaranteed it. You said if you don't do this, then you will eat some sort of like a doggy thing. I'm not sure. But you said you're going to wear your full Royals uniform next time you're on Sunday Sound Off. Is that correct? Did you say that and you guaranteed it?
You know what? If I didn't guarantee it, but if the Royals win a playoff game and then I am invited back, I will come to Sunday Sound Off in full uniform.
Did you hear that, Royals? All right, you're in town. Do you hear that, Royals? All right, you guys might be heading out to the ballpark right now, getting in some early work, whatever, maybe grabbing some lunch, some brunch, maybe some breakfast. I'm not judging what time you guys get up. You have a late night, and maybe you're listening right now. You guys win a playoff game or series, Les? Just a game?
Just a game.
You win a game in the playoffs, and then it would be on Mick Schaefer to invite Les Norman back. That's an obvious one. And then Les is going to rock his old Royals uniform. It still fits, though.
Yeah. Now let's get really literal here. I do a lot of alumni appearances. I'm still on the board of directors, work on fantasy camp and all that. I'm going to spare the public the original Royals uniform because that's not going to be fun for anybody, especially those in studio. So I have a Royals uniform, but it has been adjusted to the 55-year-old version of me, not the 25-year-old version. So, I want something that at least is going to allow people not to get sick while they're in the studio seeing me in my 30 years ago version. I don't want to do that to anybody.
No, I think we got to do that.
Yeah.
I think that's what it has to be, Les. We don't have a choice.
Les, are those pants painted on at this point? Are those things just paint?
You know what? To get them on, for my 1995 pants, I would have to paint them on. So yeah, that would be tough. I'll just wear a version of my Royals uniform. I'll just say that.
You know what? You should have had the Manny Ramirez pants, and then you could fit into them 20 years later.
Yeah.
Why'd you have to have the thigh tight, pants back in the day?
You know what? When you get called to the big leagues as a rookie, the chances are you probably don't have much of a say-so in the style of pants that you wear. You're just happy to be there and, being a part of things. So I just took what they gave me. But you were right on the thigh huggers, man, and it was pretty intense. I always liked the pictures of me in a Royals uniform from live action where it was from the waist up.
The ladies disagree, Les.
Well, you know what? I'm only worried about what one lady thinks now in my life. So,
wow, those are tight.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for looking that up.
Tight isn't cool, right?
Dog. Those things, emo kids think those are too tight. Emo kids think those skinny jeans need to be let out just a little bit. I mean, wow.
You had to make sure that you didn't eat any kind of gaseous food for lunch because you might end up with an air bubble when you're rounding second trying to go from first to third.
Gosh, Les.
Rough, man. It's right. I wasn't the only one. Let's not make it sound like Les just had, trying to make fashion trends here.
Who's the Dodgers pitcher that wears the extra tight, really, really tight pants?
Oh, the pitcher, right?
The pitcher, yeah.
It's not Walker Buehler, is it?
No, it's not Walker Buehler. Somebody will text in. We'll find it, or Dylan will look it up. Les, do you prefer the high pants with the stirrups, or do you like the longer pants that go down to the cleats?
Longer pants. It made me look taller. I got tired of hearing that line from Roadhouse. You know what? I thought you'd be bigger. And, people would say that to me all the time. Like, you know what? I thought so too. So it made me look like I was 6'3" instead of like 5'11" and a half.
I see. All right. I didn't think about the way it adjusts or affects your height, whether you have the tall pants and the stirrups.
I actually think it is Walker Buehler.
I think so too. It's not Tyler Glasnow. I'm gonna look at Walker.
It's Walker Buehler.
I don't think
for sure.
I don't think it's
Let's
Walker
remember,
Buehler.
though, guys, I spent
It's definitely Walker Buehler.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Walker Buehler.
Okay.
I spent my 2 years in the big leagues the majority of the time in the dugout during games, so you don't need to look tall when you're in the dugout, but that occasional appearance you'd get, I'd want to come out of the dugout like, wow, tall and lean. That's what I want my pinch runner looking like, tall and lean. So I had to fit that role. You got to know your role in life. That was my role.
913-912-4810 is the text line, hanging out with Les Norman. We all have our roles to play, Les. We all have our roles. I guess it is Walker Buehler.
No, you can't get that look out of your head now.
Yes. Or is it Gavin Lux? Hold on.
It's definitely Walker Buehler.
Gavin Lux is a second baseman, but
okay, never mind.
That is the other guy though. That was the guy I was trying to think of because I did for a second hesitate because you confused me.
Jason is just mad that I was right.
No, I'm not mad that you're right. I'm trying to figure out
who wears it. Walker Buehler. He goes, no.
Well, actually, Dylan said Walker Buehler first. So
what?
Is this the effect that I have?
Dylan
on
said
this
Walker
show
Buehler
on
first, and then you
Tuesdays
said
at
it's
noon?
definitely Walker Buehler.
I said it first. I go, Walker Buehler. Go, no. And then you said, look it up, Dylan. And so he looked it up, and he goes, yeah, it's Walker Buehler.
Yep, Dylan said it first.
We derailed.
I'm going to find it. I'm going to find the answer to it. I'll figure it out.
Les, this is what I deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah,
okay? He can't give credit where credit's due.
I give credit to you all the time when it's due.
Look, if it's that big of a deal, then I'll wear my uniform in studio next week to get it out of the way. If that's what you guys are, I will walk in there.
You'll walk her in here.
I will Walker Buehler in there with my uniform on.
Yes. There you go. I don't know. I'll find it. We'll see if it's Walker Buehler or not. I believe Dylan said it's Walker Buehler, so I'm guessing it's probably Walker Buehler. Les Norman is hanging out with us. Les, big conversation last night. To bunt or not to bunt? That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind of the, you can continue the rest of whether the strategy was right or not. MJ Melendez up there in that situation, first and second, nobody out, down by a run. MJ has come through a lot this year, and he's had some big hits in big moments. Are you put it down and let the next guy do the job with second and third with one out, down by one? Or are you MJ Melendez, if he pulls it to the right side, you're still going to get somebody over to the third as long as it's not a double play. But what are you doing in that situation? Bunting with MJ or letting him swing away?
It depends on the hitter. I mean, we saw Kyle Isbell earlier in the game. I was at the game last night, and around where I was sitting, we were kind of about 5 rows off the wall down the right field line. And speaking of tight pants, hanging out pretty close to Hunter Renfroe out there. But it matters about who's up to bat. Kyle Isbell is a bunting specialist, and you saw he's such a good bunter that he was giving himself up completely, and then ended up getting a hit out of it to load the bases. And so in that situation, we were all talking about MJ Melendez, and everybody down there's yelling bunt, and I was trying to tell people, look, I get the situation, but MJ Melendez is he's not a bunter. That's not his game. His game is to come through with a big hit. He's feast or famine. He had a triple earlier in the game, and so he had hit a couple balls hard, and sometimes does hit the ball hard and just makes outs. And so in that situation, I would not have bunted him, and we'll talk about it in a minute, but that, to me, is not the situation that cost the Royals the ability to tie the game up at 7-7. MJ Melendez needs to swing all the way through. It just happens, we've talked about how it drives me crazy sometimes when he strikes out because he moves his head all over the place. The pitch with 2 strikes for MJ Melendez to get him out is an outside fastball. It's almost always an outside fastball because he's pulling off the ball and he doesn't stay on it very well. So I would, even though he struck out, you take your chances, you get 3 cracks at it, and I would go ahead and let the guy swing there. That didn't bother me as much with Naive first and second with 1 out, but I wasn't concerned.
I will also point out, you're correct, Les. Definitely not a guy who bunts in his entire major league career. He has 0 bunt attempts, according to Fangraphs.
Even attempts?
Attempts, 0.
So he's never
even not his role.
Yeah.
So that's what I have right here.
So he may have turned around to show bunt and then pulled the bat back like Michael Massey did last night.
Oof.
So
at least close.
At least according, he has never had a bunt attempt. And you're also right with the head, but I also noticed the feet with MJ. A lot of times he gets happy feet, or it's like Scotty Scheffler.
It feels like a little Happy Gilmore almost. Like it almost looks like sometimes he's walking towards the pitcher.
Yeah, like a softball swing, like a
Hold
little
up,
bit.
Hold up. Sterling, did you just compare MJ Melendez to Scotty Scheffler?
But without the hand-eye coordination.
Okay.
I think he's got he's a Major League Baseball player.
No,
I think he's got some pretty
it's great.
superior
Hey,
hand-eye coordination.
I didn't say compared to me. I didn't say compared to you or myself. I said hand-eye compared to Scotty Scheffler.
Good call.
Scotty Scheffler is...
Although Scotty Scheffler's hitting a ball that ain't moving.
Okay.
MJ's hitting a moving baseball. I'll go with
You
MJ's.
hit a golf ball and hit it not off the heel or the toe.
I'll take MJ's hand-eye coordination because he's swinging something that is round at something that's moving, where Scotty Scheffler's swinging a flat face against something that's not moving. Give me MJ hand-eye coordination.
Okay, Les.
Take that, golfer guy.
What do you think? Because I think Scotty's... I don't know how we're getting this argument. I do, because Jason can't just let this be.
No, if you said MJ over Scotty, I would agree with you.
All I'm saying is I cannot play golf as good as most good golfers to save my life. I would rather face the toughest guy in the MLB and give myself a chance. Now, granted, back in the day, I was trained to do that.
Yeah, see,
but
training.
Yeah, I can't.
Let me ask you this: how many?
As far as ability, I would rather have Scotty Scheffler's. Because if you can have Scotty Scheffler's, look, in golf, you have to, once you start your swing, your head has to stay still. You can move your feet all you want, but your head has to stay relatively still. You have to have incredible hand-eye coordination, incredible calm, incredible confidence. There's so much mental and physical that have to match up in the game of golf. If I would golf like Scotty Scheffler, I would have been 10 times the Major League Baseball player that I was.
Well, let me ask you this then, okay? How many Major League Baseball players can hit a golf ball, and how many golfers can stand in the box against a Major League Baseball pitcher and hit a baseball?
It's not hitting. It's how good can it be?
That's hand-eye coordination is hitting the ball.
No, not just touching it.
Yes, you do. That's touch.
Dog.
You're talking about touch. You're talking about form. You're talking about form. Hand-eye coordination is making contact. You're talking about the swing form, the swing touch, all of that goes into putting the ball where you want. Hand-eye coordination to make contact. How many golfers have the hand-eye coordination to swing a bat and have the bat move with the ball?
The answer's none.
Thank you.
Right. So look, I get your point, Jason. And
Disagree.
I agree with you on that point. But let me say this. How many Major League Baseball players look like athletes, and how many professional golfers look like athletes?
Well, there's more Major League Baseball players, it seems, or at least that I watch. I would say that there are more Major League Baseball players that look like athletes. I'm going to go with that.
Slightly.
Yeah, then because I mean MJ versus Scotty, who looks more like an athlete between those guys. I'll take MJ.
Yeah.
By the way, I found it, and thank you, Texter. It's my fault because I said Dodgers. It was not the Dodgers, so that's where it led us off in misleading. But Robbie Ray is who I was thinking of. Robbie Ray, the pitcher with the Mariners and Blue Jays, who has the extra tight pants. So it is my fault for saying Dodgers. So if it were a Dodger, I guess it would be Walker Buehler. But in my mind, I was trying to figure out who it was, and it wasn't Walker Buehler. In my mind, I couldn't figure out, but it was. So it wasn't the Dodgers. It was Robbie Ray with the Blue Jays and the Mariners Just go look that up. You want to see some tight pants with old Robbie Ray.
But also, I would consider Gary Woodland. I think he could potentially at least touch a baseball.
Did he play
Yeah, there are
KU?
some.
Yeah.
There are some that can do it. I mean, there really are. I mean, you look at Bryson DeChambeau. He's an athletic guy. Bruce Koepka is an athletic guy. But some of those guys, I mean, they just have the ability to produce a golf swing consistently at the optimum level, which amazes me. But if you even get them into batting practice and they get the ball out of the infield, I'd be amazingly impressed.
Okay, all I was saying was that MJ Melendez's feet sometimes look like Scotty Scheffler, and that's not good for a baseball swing. That's all I was saying. I did not mean to go off on this.
Oh, I agree with you. Oh. It's a great point, Sterling. It's a good call.
Oh, that's what you meant. Oh, my bad.
Oh, yeah, now we're on the same page. Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm with you, Les. In that moment, like there was a part of me that was like, man, do I just lay down the bunt here? But then, like, you know what? They've scored 6 runs at that point. Like the offense, it wasn't 1-0, right? I mean, if it was 1-0 less, maybe it's a little different. But he's also not a guy that bunts, and your offense had already come through. Yes, there was a grand slam there with Bobby Witt, but still, I was not as upset about, no bunt there. And also, it's not like the Royals don't have an ability to play small ball, because was it 3 innings earlier when Kyle Isbell laid down one of the most beautiful bunts of the season and loaded the bases for Tommy Pham, and then the grand slam for Bobby Witt. So you got a grand slam because of a beautiful bunt that was just going to move the guys over, but he placed it so perfectly. But he's also a guy that is in that situation that can do those things where MJ isn't. But I would also say, Les, let me ask you this, though. Should MJ be a guy that doesn't ever lay down a bunt? Like, if you're batting 200, shouldn't you figure out other ways to help your team no matter what?
It's the highest level, so
I mean, can't he be a guy? I mean, if he's batting 290 or something, it's like, well, don't bunt, MJ. But you're batting 195, 200. I'd say every once in a while maybe lay down a bunt and make a productive out if you need to.
Right. However, let's remember that he has never tried to bunt.
That's what I'm saying, though. But practice it and be that guy that can do it. If you're batting 200, I would want you to find any way possible to help your team when you're at the plate. And if that means productive outs, then productive outs.
Yeah, I get it. But the amount of practice that it would take for him to, at this stage, to be able to work on that and then to actually get successful, considering how nasty pitchers are, you're talking months and months and months, and then have to come up in that situation. You're talking to do it for just one time. So again, for me at this stage, I don't see a reason to, okay, well, we're going to work on it based on last night. You probably should have bunted there, but you never bunted, so we let you hit. It's just not his game. It just really is not his game at all. His game, he hits the ball hard. He's having obviously a down season at, I think, 207 or 205 now, yes, but he's also had a lot of balls that he's hit really hard right at guys. For me, the practice is, dude, learn how to get rid of your happy feet when you're swinging. Learn how to keep your head still when you're swinging, because then it's going to feed what he does well even better, and he can become a productive everyday major league player, at least a productive part-time player. So MJ Melendez, for me, there's not a concern about bunting. I don't think every major league player needs to bunt. You're not going to ask Hunter Renfroe to bunt. You're not going to ask Salvi to bunt. So it just – because you don't need to. That's not their job. If MJ Melendez was an everyday player hitting 270 and had 25 home runs and 85 RBIs and never bunted, this conversation would not happen. So he doesn't need to. It's not his job. Like I said, he'd already hit a hard ground ball triple inside the first base bag.
Yep.
He'd already, I think, lined out, but hit the ball hard. I mean, his exit velocity is pretty high on a consistent basis. So I'm taking my chances with him either hitting a deep fly ball to move that runner at second over, or shooting a gap or something and getting the runners over that way. So definitely doesn't need to practice for me. Definitely doesn't need to try to bunt, just not his role.
Okay. I agree with you just a bit here, Les, but this is one of my biggest pet peeves about Major League Baseball. These guys can make contact with some of the nastiest pitches on swings and hit cutters and splitters and splinkers and all that stuff, but we can't teach these professional baseball players how to hold the bat over the plate, make contact with the pitch,
track the ball
and put it in the field of play. But I mean, kids on my team in junior college could do that, and I hate bringing this up, but I only bring it up in the sense that even at some of the lowest levels, we spend time bunting, fielding bunting, all that stuff. And the guys at the highest level with some of the worst batting averages are using the fact that, well, I don't know how to do it as like an excuse that I can't help my team. When I'm swinging the bat, I'm almost hurting the team. Not hurting, but you know.
I get what you're saying. But first of all, there's a couple points there. Number one, when I was at the age, I didn't go to junior college, but say the equivalent is my first 2 years.
Probably better than the junior college level.
No, that's not what I mean. What I'm saying is that even at that level, I still wasn't the equivalent of a major league hitter or major league bunter.
Sure.
I mean, they're just behind. Number two, you have to remember that when you're up there with I guess the second point is the mindset. Mm-hmm. It's a different mindset because when you're up there just hitting, it's a different attack approach. When you're up there and you're not bunting, the mental game is just as important, if not more important, when you hit as the physical game. And so if you're not used to bunting and you're up there as Kyle Isbell is unafraid to bunt. He has soft hands. It's part of his game. He's just naturally good at it. So there is not an ounce of fear in Kyle Isbell. It's my job. I'm going to do my best to get this thing done, and the chances are I'm going to get it done. So mentally, MJ is not there either, and so that dramatically increases his chances of failure. And then finally, when you're up there hitting, you've already made a decision when the ball's about halfway there, even though it's in milliseconds. And so your tracking is different. You talk about tracking the ball deep. When you hold your hands close to your body and you're just trying to make contact, when you're swinging, as opposed to holding the bat there, sliders, sweepers, split fingers, they break late, and there's a little bit of a time to adjust and foul a ball off or square a ball up when you're seeing the ball further away and you have an opportunity to swing. But when you're trying to bunt and you have late breaks and then you got to pull the bat back, it is, in my opinion, harder, especially exponentially when you're not a bunter by nature, to bunt a ball in the position where you want to bunt. You could have thrown an inside fastball. You could have thrown something in the dirt. And so it's a lot more difficult to let a ball travel even further to bunt the ball when you're not a bunter, as opposed to seeing a ball away from you, picking up spin, and then being able to anticipate, knowing the pitcher, being able to anticipate where that ball's going to go. So it's even harder for MJ to bunt, let alone somebody that may or may not be a good bunter, but at least they've done it before.
Fair points. Maybe my pet peeve is misplaced in the sense that maybe they should just spend more time with them, I guess. Is that even a possibility? If they would have started when MJ got to the Royals, working on just, hey, let's do this extra thing in case we need it, add a tool to the bag, work on bunting a little extra after practice, do you think there's a way to make it better over time, or is it just...
Well, I think there's the difference between, what Dylan's saying, Les, is last night specifically, that situation, not bunting, because he's not... Or versus an overall approach of, should he be a guy that, if you're batting 200, at least has that tool in your bag because you've worked on it, trying to find different ways to help your team throughout your career?
Yeah.
Right. And so the game has changed, obviously, and you're just not going to have guys that are going to be pure bunters. And look, I'm still the old school guy, and I think you guys are probably a little bit of both, of old school and new school. I'm still of the opinion that, look, if he's not a bunter, don't do it. Mm-hmm. But if we go on the fact that, hey, everybody needs to bunt, okay, no problem, then last night's on the Royals. Because it's not like MJ woke up one day and was such a good enough 18-year-old baseball player that he went straight to the big leagues. He's had time to play when he was younger. He's had time to go through the minor leagues a little bit. So over that time, I'm sure in the minor leagues at some time he learned to bunt. But and MJ Melendez can run. Yeah. So if he's that good of a runner and a left-handed hitter, and they didn't teach him to bunt, and they never gave him a bunt sign or never had him for hey, you're going to be a bunter when you get to the big leagues, we're going to work on it, and then not give him the bunt sign, or just flat didn't teach him how to do it, that is all 100% on the organization, not on MJ Melendez.
Yeah, but last night I'm not wanting him to bunt in that situation. And I just want to be clear about that. I was fine with him because, Les, what you brought up, he had hit the ball hard. He had the triple. He wasn't lost up there, and you go, you know what, let's just see if you can move the guys over. Dylan?
And Les, to your point, to kind of play devil's advocate to all mine, is that you're right. These players are so good that they're not at the junior college level. They're not getting to practice bunts because they don't need to, and they're not told to by their coaches. They're just that much better at that level.
And look, I'll say this, Dylan. I was a good bunter because I worked on it and because I could run. And if you're not going to respect my ability to bunt, and as a third baseman, you're going to play in left field, because I had worked on it and because I had coaches like even in college, we would have 2 hours of bunting practice, all the fast guys and all the potential bunt guys. So we would do it over and over again. And if you're going to play back, you're giving me a hit. You know, if I'm struggling and I can't see the ball well, like last night, Tommy Pham, he probably should have been a guy that tried to bunt for a hit because you could tell he wasn't seeing the ball at all in any of his at-bats. And then to end the game, a check swing on a pitch he wasn't sure of. So he's been good for the Royals. He just wasn't seeing the ball last night. And so in the minor leagues, I bunted, but rarely was called to sacrifice bunt. I only bunted for hits because I could do it well and I practiced it, but they were giving it to me. I'll take that to get on base and steal bases and pad the average and score runs to win games for my team, all those things. So, you know, it's just a matter, again, of can you bunt or can't you?
Yeah.
Is that your role or not? Tommy Pham's a good bunter. He can run and wasn't seeing the ball last night. And, again, Tommy Pham has been great for the Royals. I love that pickup, and I love him in that leadoff spot. He's been fantastic. Bottom line is, you could just tell he wasn't seeing the ball last night, and people have that. So again, I was a good bunter. I worked on it, but I just didn't bunt a lot as my spot, unless the third baseman was back, or unless if it was a close game, sure, I'll sacrifice bunt and get him over. But there were guys on my team that I played with too. Even in the minor leagues, they bunted a lot, but it wasn't their strength, and so they weren't called on to do it.
Yeah. Les Norman is our guest. I never thought I would have this much fun talking about bunting and the different parts of it, and should he do it, should he not do it, and all because of last night, which we all agree was the right strategy, and not letting him bunt. I just love that. We're hanging out with Les Norman. It's Breaking the Norm, presented by TruckMovers.com, First Federal Bank of Kansas City, Biesterveld and Crook. We'll take a timeout, and we'll answer the question that most people have been asking themselves this entire time: more likely to lay down a bunt, MJ or Scotty Scheffler? Truckmovers.com, First Federal Bank of Kansas City, and Biesterveld and Crook, as we talk some Royals baseball. And we know that Les talks lots of different things. Les, what you got coming up on Breaking the Norm today?
Thanks for asking. So let me ask you guys a question first. Can you think back in, like, elementary school or middle school or even high school, did you ever look at your principals, oh, man, my principal is really cool? Did you ever think that?
So this has been a constant discussion with me, my family, and my friends. I have a terrible, terrible memory of anything, so I don't even remember who my principals were.
The principal was my buddy's mom, so yeah,
there you go.
Pretty cool.
There you go. Sterling, do you like the principals when you went to high school?
Most of them. I didn't like the vice principal, the one that when I dressed up like Kiss, Gene Simmons for Halloween, they made me, I woke up at 5 a.m. to 4 a.m. to do it and get my face painted.
Right, makes sense.
And she made me take it off, and it was actually a big deal. Yeah, so that vice principal, no, I did not like her.
So you have some scars.
Yeah, I mean, this is traumatic over here.
So if I reshape this whole story from Sterling, the vice principal wasn't a fan of Sterling's kiss, and then made him take it off.
Okay. Let me
like Gene Simmons, too much tongue.
Wow. So anyway, my son.
It's not what I was going with.
Not what I was going with.
Yes.
A couple Saturdays ago, my oldest, for his birthday, wanted to go to a rodeo. Him and his girlfriend decided that they'd seen a rodeo out in Warrensburg. So we went out. It's been a long time since I went there. And so through the night, the barrel racing, the ladies' barrel racing started, and they would announce them. And there was this one lady that is shooting. She's young, and she was flying around. I'm like, oh, my gosh, this is unbelievable. And then there was this family of little kids behind us with their parents, and they were saying, yeah, that's my principal. And I was thinking, like, what? And I think she won or got second or something. And then the parents are talking about, yeah, they love their principal. She's completely cool. And so I'm like, I've got to reach out and find out where this lady is. And so she's a mom, a wife, a farmer, a rancher, and, oh, by the way, a rodeo star and middle school principal in Warrensburg. And I connected with her. She has a great story. She talked about how tough it is to even have a farm or a ranch. And most people that, we drive by and take for granted these farms, these ranches, they raise cows and bulls and pigs and sheep and all that stuff. But it's hard to even break even in the world of agriculture and farming. And so her husband's an agricultural teacher and runs the farm. Wow. She's a middle school principal and helps run the farm and is a mom. And, that moms and dads have laundry and jobs and help with homework and all that stuff. And yet they do all these things and never a day off. And so she's just a really cool. Dr. Holly Jennings is coming on, principal at Warrensburg Middle School, and just tells some great stories about life and grit and toughness. And, yeah, it's really cool, really amazing. Definitely I recommend people tune in.
Dude, that's amazing. That is unbelievable it's hard enough to have one thing on your plate, let alone doing all. That's a super mom. Right.
I love how they were like, they love their principal. Yeah, no, duh. I mean, I would love my principal if I was getting to go to rodeos.
But that's also really cool, though, because, like, my daughter had a soccer game this weekend, and her kindergarten class and the kids in kindergarten at her school have this soccer team together. And one of their teachers came and watched them play.
That's cool.
And the kids were so excited about one of the teachers coming and watching them play. There's so much more of that because the kids play sports, right? And the teachers come and watch them. How often do you hear of the kids going and watching their teachers or principals do something like that outside of school? That's pretty neat.
That's a great point. And, in talking with her too, I said, so when you get home, what's it like? Because at the end of the day, you're the principal. You got to wait for the kids to leave, and then the teachers are leaving, and then you go home, and then it's help kids with homework, get dinner on the table, do some laundry. And then she said, so around 8 o'clock at night when the kids are all set, they're maybe showered, ready to go to bed and all that, she'll go out and they're cabbing right now, or she'll get on a horse, and there's a horse that she's training on her farm/ranch. And she'll get calls and emails and text messages on her phone from teachers in the school district and parents. And so she's literally got her earbuds in, working the administrative and school stuff while she's on horseback, training horses and working on the farm. So 11 o'clock at night, she's exhausted, worked all day, hasn't had a single break, goes to bed, gets up 5 in the morning, kids getting ready for school, taking care of the morning chores, and then, oh, by the way, babysitting hundreds of kids and working with hundreds of kids and teachers at middle school 5 days a week. And then during the summer, when teachers get that 3-month period off, she's still working on the farm. And not only is she working on the farm, they're doing rodeo. Her kids, they're younger. I think both of her kids are in her middle school. They're showing pigs, and they're, showing other animals and taking care of their own. So, yeah, truly amazing. And yet she calls her husband the hardest working person she's ever known.
Wow. What a cool story. What a really cool story. Les Norman, Breaking the Norm, is our guest, and that'll be what time, Les? Let people know.
Yeah, that's going to be today at 4 o'clock on ESPN Kansas City. It's 94.5 FM. And then the replay will be Saturday morning at 7 a.m. here on Sports Radio 810. And then after the weekend, I'm going to post that on 810WHB.com in the form of the podcast so people can check that out.
Awesome. Les Norman is our guest. All right, Les, I know the answer is significant, but I think literally the answer will be it's a significant difference. But I was trying to explain to my son last night, we're watching the game, and Tommy Pham's up with bases loaded and nobody out, and the first pitch is a ball off the plate. It was called a strike. Now, you just want guys to be consistent. And in the umpire's defense, he had been calling that a strike most of the game. So you want him to be consistent. You'd rather it just be called strikes that are strikes instead of saying, well, I have a strike zone that gives about 1.5 inches to the inside part of the plate to lefties. And, it's I'm a little more tight on the other side when it's inside part of the plate to righties. And, okay, whatever. Just, the strike zone is the strike zone. But that thing was a ball, and it could have been 1-0 with bases loaded. And I say to my son, I'm like, man, that just changed the whole at bat. And he was like, why? So I'm trying to explain to him, like, dude, at this level, the difference between 1-0 with bases loaded and nobody out or 0-1, bases loaded and nobody out, seems pretty significant. As a batter up there, how big of a difference, and what's the mindset change if that first pitch is called a ball as opposed to it being called a strike?
Well, it definitely does change things because it tips the scales into the pitcher's favor. However, you have to be mentally tough to also understand I still have 2 strikes left, and you have to have a short memory. And besides, you only get to call one timeout during an at-bat, so you have to be mentally tough to get back in there and have a short memory. On the other side of that, though, the thing that bothers me is that, you umpires have said, that's my zone. I'm going to call it that way. Well, there's some guys that take the bump that are on the mound that actually that's their best pitch. They control that particular pitch better than maybe other pitches. I mean, everybody's got, my best pitch is my sinker. My best pitch is my sweeper, my slider, my split, my changeup. Waka's got pretty good stuff, but his best pitch is his changeup because it comes out of his hand looking like a 95-mile-an-hour fastball, and it's mid-80s. So it can swing the advantage over to the pitcher, and that bothers me. So if you're calling it both sides, that's fine, but that doesn't necessarily mean that one pitcher has an easier time hitting that spot than the other pitcher does. Now, Tommy Pham will tell you, hey, I need to do a better job. It wasn't a good pitch. I need to suck it up. But I'm just going to say this. To close, you all know my affinity and my love for umpires. It's been well documented that I just love umpires and always have. Look, if you can't do your job consistently well, you should probably not do it. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Les Norman is our guest. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling, and talk a little more baseball. The importance, what Les Norman thinks the importance of tonight's matchup with the Tigers is, as 2 more games left against the Tigers, a 4-game lead in the wild card, and Tariq Skubal on the mound tomorrow against Alec Marsh. We'll take a timeout. More Zone next. All right, one quick segment here left with Les Norman, Breaking the Norm, presented by TruckMovers.com, First Federal Bank of Kansas City and Biesterveld and Crook, ESPN Kansas City. Today at 4 o'clock, you can hear Breaking the Norm with Les Norman. Saturday replay at 7 o'clock in the morning. Les, the Royals do not come away with the victory last night. They had leads multiple times, 4-run leads multiple times. They end up losing that game 7-6, unfortunately, because the offense was playing and swinging the bats pretty well. The importance of tonight's game, Les, with Cole Reagan's on the mound, the Cole train, woo! And also Ray Gunn taking on Casey Mize, almost a 5 ERA. And tomorrow, the favorite to win the Cy Young in the American League, Tariq Skubal, and Alec Marsh on the mound for the Royals. How important do you think tonight's game is for the Royals in keeping this arm's length distance on the Tigers?
Tell you what, man, the Tigers will sneak up on you. I mean, these games are huge. I think the number is 8, if I'm not mistaken, of any combination of Royals wins and Tigers losses. So, look, you don't want to rely on other teams to beat the Tigers to get in the playoffs. You got to handle your own business, okay? And so you can't play tomorrow's game yet. So tonight is huge. And, yeah, you're glad that Reagan's is on the mound, but Lugo was on the mound last night. And so it's important to understand, and one thing we didn't talk, I'll say real quick, we talked about the MJ Melendez bunt and why that didn't get down. Look, there wasn't a bat where Bobby Witt Jr. hit a ball down the right field line and Garrett Hampson was on third base. When a ball is down the right field line near the wall and Matt Vierling was playing right field and he had to come catch the ball, come across his body and throw that ball in, look, it is the furthest angle away for an outfielder to throw home. And although it wasn't super deep, it wasn't also super shallow, and it wasn't hindsight for me. I thought all the way, you've got to tag. You have to go and you're in that position because once the catcher even receives the ball, then he's got to come the furthest possible position away to make that tag. Hampson can run. He can belly slide and have his body all the way away from that play, and the throw was bad anyway.
It was a bad throw,
the catcher had to block it with the catcher had to block it with his chest. So those are the kind of situations when you're at home, when you play for the tie, because you have the last bat. You have to go for those situations. So, in my opinion, that wasn't the late thing that cost us the game. Was the MJ Melendez not bunting? It was us not being aggressive in that moment. And so if that continues, man, it's going to be touch and go here. So we have to play aggressive and smart together, and every game now matters in a big way.
Vel at 9. Program at 2 o'clock. Todd Lebo right now until 2 o'clock hanging out with us here in the zone. Todd, sup?
It was a rough one last night for the Rawls.
Sup? Yeah, you were out there too.
Yeah, that was not what you'd expect. You know, you get Seth Lugo a 4-run lead twice.
Yeah.
And once he couldn't get through the fifth, I'm like, 5's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to need more. And they got
one more
run,
yeah,
but they just left, too many guys on base, didn't get the big hit when they needed to. And Detroit is playing really well right now, and they're hitting the ball hard, and they're getting timely hits. That game, it's not going to be some memorable game you think about for the, wherever, but baseball is so weird. Like that game had a grand slam, right? It had batter interference, had a couple of replays. It had the third base coach getting thrown out of the game.
yeah.
It had
Between innings.
That they were arguing about some, check swing
Check
or
swing
bunt
on
you know.
Massey,
I mean,
which was a check swing. He pulled the bat back, but whatever.
There were pass balls, wild pitches, comebacks.
A bouncer off the back and Salvi damn near getting him at third.
Yes, crazy.
Errors by Bobby and James MacArthur forgetting to close his glove when Massey makes a great sliding
By the way,
stop.
It took 30 minutes to call that an error. They didn't call it an error until
On MacArthur?
yeah, they didn't call it an error right away. And then about seriously 30 minutes later, we got a scoring change in the 7th inning. I'm like, yeah, it's an error. It hit his glove.
Did they change the score ever from scoring from Bobby's error and overthrowing Yuri? I think.
And then they had also James MacArthur leaving the game with
that's right.
3-0 count.
Yeah.
Here, friend.
Shoulder.
Hello,
tightness.
Angel. Come in here and get 3-0. Then he throws
Right.
2 strikes. And anyway, it's
How many
tough loss.
shortstops get to that ball up the middle?
And you get an error.
And because he overthrows, if he lets the ball go, they're in the exact same position as they would be.
Yes.
If he doesn't get the ball, he gets the ball, gets up,
He
tries
scores
to
on
make
the
a throw.
though, so
Well, that's true.
that was it. They
That's
had
where-
they
that's
had
where
to
you
kind of give it to
Yeah,
him.
I guess that's right.
That's the hard part.
Forgot about the scoring part.
But
of it.
baseball
Yeah,
is
never
like
mind.
that, baseball, you just get these weird little things, and it was like it's just
Yeah.
like one of those games. Like I said, there's 162 of them. It's not going to be the most memorable game of the year, whatever. And the Royals are still a 99% chance to make the playoffs, but there are so many levels of the playoffs. There's, be one of the top 2 seeds, win your division level of the playoffs. There's being 6th seed and maybe never playing a game at your home. Are you in the playoffs if you don't have a home playoff game? All those things. And this was a tough one last night, and it happened with your scoreboard watching, and in about 5 minutes,
Yes.
Cleveland, which in the end may be fine that they won and beat the Twins. You know what I mean? But at one point, you're like, oh, we're gonna get a game on
3-0
Cleveland.
lead
You're
for
gonna
Minnesota
win,
in the 8th.
and then all of a sudden the thing flips the other way. And I think honestly, if you're gonna lose to Detroit, you might as well have Cleveland beat Minnesota and keep them behind you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's whatever you prefer, going to Baltimore or going to Houston right now. But
the playoffs don't start right now, do they?
Right. I mean,
Lots
they're
of
2.5
things can
games,
change.
but they can catch Baltimore. I mean, Baltimore's got 3 against Detroit. They've got 3 in New York. They got 3 against Minnesota. That'll be for the division against New York there in Yankee Stadium. Detroit and Minnesota are all going to still be alive when they face off against them.
The team in the most peril is the Twins. That's the team in peril because they're behind the Royals.
Yes.
And I believe
agree
Detroit
with
plays
that.
Chicago the last 3 games of the year.
I agree with
do.
that. If I would,
I think.
They
Is
do
that
play.
right? Yeah.
They do.
yeah, they play 3
White Sox.
at home. I would.
Whoa, the
if-
White Sox are surging though.
They're 3 in a row.
3 in a row.
3
Last
in a
3
row.
games. Who's the hottest team in baseball? Last 3 games.
Them.
The White Sox.
Seattle.
Is this their first time they've won 3 games in a row
Padres.
this year?
They barely won 3 games all year combined. But
Seriously.
yes.
They're going to go ahead and ruin this possible history.
No, I
With
how-
winning games.
How many games do they need to win? They're 36 and 115.
Well, 115. The number of losses is 120, but it's kind of garbage because the Mets they had 2 rainouts, so they were like 40 and 120 in 1961 or 2. That one.
They would have been 122.
No, but I think they didn't make the games.
Right,
up.
I know, but they would have been 40 and
Yeah.
122.
Well, you can't guarantee that. They
I
could have won a
guarantee it.
game.
Yeah, that team sucked. I remember watching them growing up.
Do you?
Anyway, yeah, they got 3 against the White Sox to end the season at home. For the Royals, I'm not worried about them making the playoffs. I would be sweating bullets if I was the Twins.
Yeah, they're in a tougher spot. Do they play the Tigers too at some point? Is there?
No,
they're
no,
done.
they're
done.
done
Yeah.
playing.
They have 3 left in Cleveland. They have 3 left in Boston,
they have a
and then they
4-game
have 3
series, yeah.
against Baltimore at the end of the season.
Baltimore. That's the one at the end of the year. That last weekend when if Detroit's just sitting there beating the brakes off of Chicago and you're playing Baltimore and Baltimore's playing for a position and you're trying to stay in, that'll be wild.
9 of their 12 games remaining are against Cleveland, that's trying to win a division and maybe get a number 1 seed. Boston, that right now is 4 games behind Minnesota, but you've got 3 head-to-head at Fenway Park.
Right. So they're not dead.
3 against Miami at home, so you get a little reprieve, and then you get Baltimore at home that's trying to catch the Yankees in the American League East. So if I was Minnesota, I'd be concerned about
If we
missing
just want
the
to feel
playoffs.
better about ourselves here, say Minnesota feels worse today than
They do.
because they had a 3-0 lead.
Last night felt very much like a Royals win, or the way the Royals win, the way the Tigers played, and just like, they just kept fighting and scratching and clawing and fighting and scratching and clawing, and then they found a way to win a game that maybe they shouldn't have won. because that's how the Tigers are playing right now.
They're loose.
They are surging. They're playing great baseball, and the Royals were
Last night they looked a little tight to me.
yeah.
Bobby hit the home run. You're like, oh, that'll loosen them
I
up.
thought it was done. I thought the game was over when he hit that home run. It's toast. Lugo's on the mound, but Lugo looked probably his worst also. I know he's had some rough outings, but last night, like, he couldn't control anything.
Yeah.
Like, he had no feel.
And the strike zone looked like kind of wide.
Yeah.
I mean, like
Definitely to the inside part of left-handed hitters. I
Yeah.
mean, he was giving them an inch and a half there to the inside part for left-handed hitters, but Lugo couldn't. He was not sharp. He couldn't place anything, and that's rough because against Detroit, the top three of the top 4 in Cy Young winners, or the odds of winning the Cy Young, are pitching in these 3 games.
Yeah.
Lugo last night is the 3rd betting favorite. Reagan's goes tonight as the 4th betting favorite, and Skubal is the minus 5,000 favorite to win the Cy Young.
Is Corbin too?
Emmanuel Clase is second.
Wow.
Yeah,
Which, quite frankly, he deserves it.
Yeah.
If you've not looked at what
Yeah.
Clase's done this year.
Clase is a set, but he's plus 2,500. Skubal's
I
winning
get it,
the Cy
but
Young.
Clase is doing Eric Gagne, Zach Britton in 2011
Yeah,
or
he's been-
09 with the Orioles.
Yeah, he's been amazing, but it's like you've got 2 of the top 4 going
They're
back
going
to
right
back
now.
nights.
And you got to win one of those games.
You got to win one of these
Thought
games.
they had last night won. Basically, we've been saying for like the last 3 series, if they just win a game each series, they're kind of like, you're going to be okay. Everything just turns so much. We've sat here sometimes on Tuesdays and been like, oh, you feel like this. And then the next week, you're like, oh, what are you talking about?
Good,
and then it's, back and forth. And everything was so nice. And, Sunday it was like, right when the Chiefs were starting, the Royals lost the game. Like, okay, no big deal. Whatever. You won the 2 and you're good. You got one in New York. It stunk that you lost the tight one at the end. Just come home and get a win. And then all of a sudden you've got a 4-run lead twice and you don't get that done. Then you start going, all right, well, now there's one less game to play. Everything gets a little tighter down at the end. I hope they play a little bit looser throughout tonight, but it'll be a lot looser. I don't see the Royals winning games this year for the rest of the year or the postseason if they don't get 5+ innings out of their starter. And they only got 4 2/3 last night. This bullpen is not good enough to get all of that out of them, and they didn't get that done. And honestly, Zerpa was really good, or it could have gotten ugly.
Yeah.
I mean, they still had chances because the bullpen was right for the last 2 and a 3rd inning or whatever. It's just that little chunk in the middle where Lugo couldn't get it done, and then Long, and it was just one of those things.
And I know that we're talking about, the Tigers and the Twins in this division, and the Twins being 2.5 games back, the Tigers now being 4 games back of the Royals. But it's not only who's behind you, but, if they hold on last night, they're 2 games behind Baltimore. And Baltimore's schedule is significantly more difficult than the Royals the rest of the way.
Sure.
I mean, the Royals after Detroit, I mean, we're talking about it easing up.
Giants,
with the Giants, the Washington Nationals. Atlanta at the end of the season is going to be interesting. But
maybe, but they could be dead by then.
They could be dead by then. But, I mean, Baltimore's got these 3 against San Francisco. So Baltimore can make some hay in these next 3 games if the Royals don't win one of the next 2 against Detroit. And then they've got 3 for Detroit. They go to Yankees for 3. They go to Minnesota for 3. And the Royals are playing not those tough teams.
Yeah. They just need to play better. Lugo was so good in New York and just wasn't good enough last night.
But they've got a chance to catch Baltimore.
You ask them if you're scoring 6 runs, they would tell you, the Royals would say, we're going to win this game. We've got Lugo on the hill. You're scoring 6 runs. We're winning this game.
It's happened like twice this
putting
season
a lot of money.
where a lot of runs have scored that Lugo's actually lost.
Right.
I think that's twice now.
You're up 4-0 and Lugo's on the mound. I'm putting a lot of money on the Royals to win.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't, because that money line would be stupid anyway. It wouldn't
That'd be
be a lot
bad
of value
quite
there.
frankly.
Yeah, I was going to
That's
say,
very
you would
silly.
have to put a lot
Yeah,
of money just
there's-
to make it.
There's no value, but that's, I mean, I would look. I don't want to go back and look, but the percentage chance, the winning percentage of the Royals
Yeah.
at that point, win probability,
Probably
when
was
that
very
grand
good.
slam left
Well,
and Lugo's on the mound.
I think it's a good point to Lebo. I mean, runners in scoring position has, I think, come to a grinding halt over the past few weeks. I know they put up 6 runs, but when you hit a grand slam, you better put up 6 runs. Bobby Witt had 5 RBIs, but there's a lot of situations as the game progressed, and we talked about the MJ Melendez up, first and second, no outs. You had second and third, 1 out, and no one scores. I
Right,
mean,
and you had a play where was the pop-up that was in foul territory
right field, yeah.
with a new third base coach in, who's coached a lot of third base.
I know,
but it was like
he's got to go.
I think you just go
It's a
in
go
that
every
spot.
time. Veerling ran so far to get the ball, so he has to run it. Then as he catches it, he's got to catch his balance. Then he's got to throw.
And that was Hampson, correct, at third
It's
base.
Hampson
He
at
was
third.
a very fast
But
player.
then you've got to throw, and the catcher is facing his right. This guy's sliding to his left. If that is not perfectly glove side, the way that Salvi threw it to Fermin,
Right, yeah.
then you're catching the ball to your right and then swinging all the way around to a guy who's sliding in head first. That would have had to
that's
be
why-
too perfect. It's a go. It's an immediate go.
That's what felt tight to me.
Yeah. When there's
Like they were
if there was
scared
nobody
to make
out,
that play.
there's nobody out. Okay, I'm less aggressive.
Yeah.
But with one out and a pop up, it's a go.
Yeah.
I'm sending him, and I'll take my chances.
I will say Bobby, you would have, because that was Bobby, I believe.
Bobby
Bobby.
and Salvi was up next. You're like, oh, maybe I'll get it.
You would have, and maybe that's the thought process. Is Salvi's up next?
And he
He's
barely
been
missed
great.
it.
Yeah,
He barely
I mean that
missed
was close. It
Yeah.
was close.
But-
Yeah, I also to an extent blame Bobby and Salvi. I know it's hard to blame the guy who had 5 RBIs.
You get a hit.
Well, not even
Hit
get a
it
hit,
deeper.
but hit a little deeper. You didn't
Yeah.
even need anything
He
spectacular
was so
there.
close on the first swing. He was fouled by,
Yeah.
I don't know, a foot, less than a foot.
And again, I'm not
ripped
trying to
that
blame,
thing.
but
Yeah.
it's just like in that situation, when you
I
have Bobby
think-
and Salvi up, you expect a run.
I
to
think
score.
Hampson scores if he goes, and we're not talking about Bobby not hitting it far enough.
Agreed.
'Cause
Agreed.
Yeah, and
you
then who
you
knows
talk
what
about
happens?
Bobby
Then you're
having 6
tied,
RBIs
and
at
you
that
got a
point.
ways to go. Who
Again,
knows
he
what
was not
happens?
the issue in this game. It's
I
just
know.
a microcosm of
I think-
fertility for the majority of the game with the runners in scoring position.
I think you've got to put the pressure on that defense when that guy's running that far to catch that ball, and then he's got to come up throwing.
Every
And
once in a while, this team
throwing
reminds
on
me
that angle from
of
foul
like the
territory to the
13,
catcher.
14, 15 Royals, where they will run and have fun and do all those
Yeah.
things. And then that one last night was like, oh, that's
Yeah.
not. That's,
Yeah,
that's
I mean, I wonder if Vance sends him. You know, like I do. I wonder if he's if it's a go, if it's a hey, you're going. You know,
Yeah,
so
and
Hampson just
last
in his
night-
mind doesn't have to hesitate. He knows, boom, go.
last night, we asked Q about it, and he didn't throw anyone under the bus or whatever, but it was like, is that one you should have gone? And he was like, so when you do that, you're like, yeah, you probably should have gone.
Probably should've gone
But he's,
in that
like he had
situation.
made a really nice throw before, I guess, whatever. But you got to just, on that one, it's hard because you might have some rule, right? If you tell the guy, if the guy takes a step backwards, you're definitely going. If he goes this, whatever. And that's a weird play because you don't
Yeah.
expect Bobby to pop up down the right field line, whatever, and all that. And, the game ended with so many different players playing than when they started.
Yeah.
There were pinch hits and there were all
Right.
these things. And Garrett Hampson's playing first base
Right.
at the end of the game. There were a lot of weird things in this, so people just weren't comfortable being where they were. But that one, I'm like,
Yeah.
you got to go.
I will also point out for Matt Veerling, who was in right field, has graded out below average in arm value. Right average, 51 percentile in arm strength, but as far as arm value, as far as which we saw
Make
was
that guy make the play.
what we saw was up the line, which
Yeah,
goes to show he
And
doesn't
it
have a
also
great
wa-
arm.
and it wasn't a good throw either. He'd have been
Yes,
there.
by-
So
yeah,
I mean,
so-
so what we're saying is force him to make the throw. He didn't.
And he's not again a
and
guy
so-
who has a great arm, so you probably
Yeah.
should have gone.
Yeah, so you would have been safe because the throw wasn't good, and but
here's what they do, though. They've washed everything away.
Yep.
And they go to today.
Today's today.
They've done a really good job with that. And we'll see if that can continue to work that way, because that gets harder when there becomes less games. There are less todays coming, right? In June, you had a rough stretch. Oh, well, then we got 100 more todays coming. Well, we're down to 8 more todays right now, right?
and the magic number is 8.
Yeah.
They got a magic number 8. They have 11 games left.
Correct, 11 games.
11
left.
games remaining, and an 8 game or magic number for the Royals is 8. But you know what? They got the Coltrane on the mound tonight. Woo! Need Ray Gunn to go out there and do his thing
Exactly.
against a guy who's got an almost 5 ERA in
This is a
in
game you
Casey
win.
Mize. Yeah, it's crucial they win this one because you don't want to go in tomorrow 3 games up in the wild card over Detroit with Skubal on the mound against Marsh and a chance of you ending your season series against Detroit 2 games up
Yeah.
in that spot. So yeah, big one tonight. Todd Pacheco, he will have surgery on that fibula, and we don't know the prognosis and the timeline until the surgery is done. They've given an estimation of maybe 6 to 8 weeks, but they haven't gone in yet. They haven't opened that thing up to go in and check. But I think it was Schefter, might have been Rappa report that said the more accurate prognosis and timeline will be given after surgery is
Right.
done.
And even then, you don't really know
Yeah,
either.
well, because we had a pretty decent prognosis and timeline for Hollywood, we thought.
And it wasn't
And,
exactly right.
thought he was going to get back, and now a centimeter off here or there, and he's got to have surgery, hopefully with Pacheco and the surgery, everything will be fixed, and then it's just an actual timeline to get back to playing. But they got to figure something out. I woke up this morning saying no chance they bring back Kareem Hunt. And then I was told, yeah, they are. They not only is the window open, they're bringing him in for a visit, and that's what happened. And we found out yesterday afternoon that they're bringing in Kareem Hunt. He's working out today for the Chiefs. If you bring him in for a workout, I mean, are you bringing him in because you want to sign him? If he just pass, or are you bringing him in case somebody else goes down the line that you've already sort of done this and you have an idea of who you can go to? If something else happens.
Yeah, probably a little bit of both, I would think. Here's what you also need to realize. He's not on anyone's team. So,
yeah.
Okay.
You're not trading for him.
Listen, Kareem Hunt was a phenomenon for a year and a half for the Chiefs, and he was fine at times for Cleveland, but there weren't people beating down his door offering to give him money to come play football this offseason. So he's sitting around out there. People around here would like it because they remember Kareem Hunt in 2017 and 18. They didn't watch every Browns game, whatever, when he was not the starter there and all that. They've got a couple guys on the practice squad, and what Andy said yesterday on that Zoom was, we'll go with the guys we have here, but, Brett and the guys will do what they do. So I still think it's a bit of a long shot for them to actually sign him, but I'm not saying they're not going to do it. I think you got to think back to when. Listen, they're trying to win football games and all that stuff. And is Kareem Hunt going to be the difference between them winning a lot of football games and not? I'd probably not, honestly. I don't think he's that guy anymore. No. He's not some kid or something. But when he left here, that was an ownership deal. Now, if ownership is allowing them to bring him in here, they're not allowing him to bring him in here to not sign him. So they've clearly said, okay, you can sign him. Otherwise, you wouldn't even have him come for a visit.
Yeah, you've already signed off. You've already got the okay from Clark Hunt and the higher ups to sign him if you've brought him in for a workout.
Yeah. So now maybe that's just like really he better look really, really good. If he doesn't look really good, we're not doing this. He's had a rough go since he left here. I mean, he got arrested and, was a Super Bowl week or
he
whatever.
Was emotional about he should be in the Super Bowl at that time.
And he knew he blew it all, his chance here. Because he was on, that offense was unbelievable in 2017 with Alex Smith being a quarterback because of him in a lot of ways. Tyreek was coming into his own and Travis was younger and all that. And Kareem Hunt was so much of an upgrade over what they'd had at running back before. It's incredible. And it kept going in 18 and taken to a whole nother level. A whole nother level with Patrick Mahomes. And then it was, you just cut away one of your best players in December. That took a lot for ownership to do that.
In 2018, he was on pace for like 1,800 yards from scrimmage and almost 20 touchdowns. Because he played 11 games, had 1,200 yards from scrimmage and 14 touchdowns in the 11 games. Yeah. I mean, he was on pace for like almost 20 touchdowns and 1,800 yards
the Super Bowl by a whisker.
Yeah. I mean, he was on pace to be viewed as like one of the best running back seasons ever that year in his second year, and the top of one of the top running backs in the entire league at that point, playing with this offense, and then gone.
And one Friday afternoon, when the videos came out, it was just over.
Done. And he's had 2,000 yards rushing since then. In his career, he scored a lot of touchdowns. I mean, he had 9 touchdowns last year.
Yeah.
He's
he had 9 touchdowns last year, and they didn't have him back.
Yeah, exactly. He had 9 touchdowns, 3 yards per carry, and they said, no, we're good with Jerome Ford and whoever else that we have. And Nick Chubb isn't even healthy right now. They didn't have him back, and Nick Chubb is still injured.
Yeah, and nobody else said, hey, come play for us. There's some bad football teams out there who could use some help. So I don't know. I don't know what'll happen.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Fact or fiction? You want to do that?
Fact. Fact.
Fact.
That's the fact, Jack.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Sterling Holmes, Todd Lebo, Dylan Michaels heading up until 2 o'clock. We've got Fact or Fiction. What we're going to do now, Sterling will give us some questions. We have to decide if that's fact or fiction according to Sterling, and the winner of this will be determined after a tiebreaker.
Regardless.
If we get to it.
Yeah.
Yep. We'll see. We'll see if we get to the tiebreaker.
Let's go.
I feel like standing for this segment. I feel
I
like
like
we
it.
just stand.
You bring in the
move.
energy.
All right. You want to start
Now
with
he's
Lebo
gonna
this
have to
time?
move his computer.
Well,
'cause he
this thing
can't
doesn't
see well
stand.
enough.
These. I mean, look at that. Just drops. It's droopy.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to
Heartland Men's Health.
go to
ahead.
Heartland's Been Health.
Todd will lead us off this time.
All right, Lebo, let's go with you this time, okay?
Ready.
Keontae Ingram is a guy who gets called up first. Fact or fiction?
Fact.
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 That's a fact. I always like starting you guys off with an easy one. You know that.
Yeah, we
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
I'm a gentleman.
Appreciate it.
I don't
Yeah.
want anyone to
And a
have
scholar.
0. I don't want anyone to get 0. It's not fun.
And a scholar.
Number 2, we'll go to Dylan this time.
Still be tied if you had 0.
Dylan? Carson Steele gets 15-plus touches this week. Fact or fiction?
I'm gonna go fiction.
Fiction.
15 touches.
a lot.
It's a lot.
That's both on the ground
Yeah.
and through the air.
How about kick returns? He had one of those.
Does not count.
Didn't count.
It's
It's a
through
very
the ground and the air. I thought we wait.
That's touches. He didn't say
Ah.
carries. He said touches. I'm still going.
I'll still
fiction,
go
though.
under. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll try over.
It's a fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's a fiction.
I set
Could be
the
about
over under.
9.
I set the over under with Ty shirt 11.5.
Yeah, I probably should have gone a little lower. I probably should have gone about 13.
Well, you got me, buddy.
But I got you.
Yeah, got
I got
me.
I got Lebo.
Now with
Fiction.
Pacheco in the game against the Bengals, he did carry it 7 times.
Yeah.
So something to think about. He did carry it. I just think there'll be more P Ryan.
So we'll go
Yes,
back
I
and,
agree.
and
we'll go
adjust
back. And,
this.
yes, this is definitely. We definitely
Last
do
week
that.
I nailed, by the way. I got a lot of the facts were actual facts.
We definitely do that. We definitely go back
Always.
and adjust.
I said
after the
Mizzou
fact.
should have been scared about Boston College. That's a fact.
I said so.
I said K-State was going to cover.
That's a fact.
That's a fact.
Fact.
Yeah, there was a lot of facts
there
last
was
week,
a lot
guys.
of facts.
You're full of facts.
Yeah, big fact
Yep.
guy. And you guys all made fun of me. Nick Bolton.
Nobody makes fun of you.
Jason, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'll do this.
Nick Bolton is a linebacker I'm most concerned about.
Fact.
I think that's true, but I think you're concerned about all of them,
But most.
but not Leo. I think you're mostly concerned about Drew, Tranquil, and Nick Bolton, but I'll say fact.
I'm gonna go fiction because of your Mizzou fandom.
It's not Mizzou fandom. It's called being unbiased. It's actually fiction. I'm more concerned about Drew. Why has Drew had a 29 pass coverage grade last week? Drew Tranquil has gotten no blame from anyone. It's all been Nick Bolton. Nick Bolton.
As
Sounds
soon as
like
I
it begins now.
This
doesn't
is
it?
like a
as I
great
said-
reason why you should always draft like Mizzou or K-State players because half the fan base will always just
No,
kinda
it's not true.
No, I
like,
don't-
cover for them.
I'm
Yeah.
being unbiased. Like
I don't disagree with this take. I think I'm on with on Sterling's side. I should have
about
gone.
that?
I should have gone fact on this.
yeah,
one.
because
Mizzou
like,
guys got to stick
no,
together.
no. Nick Bolton's been injured. He's coming back off of injury. He's getting the rust knocked off. He
No,
looked
I-
better last week than week 1.
Yeah,
Drew
no.
Tranquil looked worse week 2 than week 1. I mean,
I'm
this is
not-
not good.
I'm not making excuses for how bad Nick Bolton's looked in the first 2 weeks.
I'm not either.
I'm just saying Drew Tranquil needs to be better at covering guys and making tackles when he gets there, because that's why he was brought back and Willie.
I want
Gay
half
was
credit
not.
because
Correct.
I,
And
'cause
by-
I talked it through.
and
but
by
I
the
was-
way,
still went the wrong
Todd
way.
got
Drew Tranquil
Dylan got that one.
double
Yeah.
the amount of money that Willie Gay Jr. got on an AAV. Double. I like Drew. I hope he figures it out. But
I
I'm
will say
nervous.
this:
I'm nervous.
both of them
Yeah,
are concerning level play in the first couple of weeks. That's for sure.
they'll
I'm
figure
up.
it out.
Left,
Okay,
left
we'll
tackle
go.
and left tackle and linebackers. The Bengals were like, "How do we beat them?" Left tackle and linebackers.
We'll go to Lebo this time. Lebo.
Let's
Yeah.
do Todd first.
Okay. Kyle Pitts is going for 80-plus yards versus the Chiefs.
I've had
Fact or
Kyle
fiction?
Pitts on my fantasy team since he got in the league, and he's always fails. So this is the week. Well, the Chiefs will find a way. How about this? I'll be optimistic. The Chiefs will find a way. Fiction.
Ooh, okay.
I agree. I'll go fiction too.
I'm gonna go. Oh man, he's so hit or miss. Like Kyle Pitts is so hit or miss.
We need an answer.
I will go fact.
It's fiction.
Oh,
The Chiefs will
it's
find a
fiction.
way,
Find
and
a
Kyle
way.
Kyle Pitts. It's too obvious. It's too on the nose that Kyle Pitts. He's so talented. He'll go for 80+. He's going to have like one catch for 6 yards.
He did that last night. That's
Yeah,
why I don't think it's
it's
going to happen
Kyle
2 weeks
Pitts.
in a row.
It's what he does.
That's what he do.
That's what he do. It's
what he do.
That's what Pitts
What he
do.
What speed do.
What to do? What to do?
That's
Well,
what
ball players make ball plays.
That's what
all right,
Pitts
we'll
do.
go to Dylan this time.
D-man.
The Detroit Tigers catch the Minnesota Twins. Fact or fiction?
Ooh. I'll go fiction. I think the Twins will still figure out a way.
I'm going fact.
Fact.
That's a fact. Jack.
All right.
We just
Johnson.
went through this.
Yeah, we just did this.
We're now closer to Dylan. Dylan's got 4. Todd and I have 3. Close to a tie.
Jason.
I'll lead off this time.
I'm okay, Tommy fam. I'm concerned about Lugo in the playoffs. Fact or fiction?
Fiction.
Fact.
Fiction.
I am a little concerned about Lugo.
That's a fact. I saw it on PBS.
Were you
I'm
concerned
hot.
before last night?
Not as. He just got
Not
concerned
as,
last night.
not as, but
Boy,
I
Detroit.
got concerned last night.
You want to talk about floating with the wind by every
That's
start?
what we do.
Yeah,
Lugo looks
I'm a
awesome. 3
floater.
starts in a row. Like, he's back. Lugo does that last night. I got some concerns about the playoffs with Lugo. Has he pitched too many innings?
This might. Reagan's is the guy I trust the most. Even with how great of a season Lugo's had, I still trust Reagan's the most.
I get it.
I'm getting pretty optimistic still with Michael Wacha. I'm still. He's been there, done that many a time, right? He's been a
Veteran.
He's a veteran
A vet.
as a starter. I'm still happy with Lugo. I'm not complaining here. I'm just
not super concerned.
Four
Just
to
a little
four to
concerned.
small. Got a small concern.
4 to 4 to 3. Todd's going to lead us off with this one.
Lebo, results aside, Eagles were silly to pass the ball on that play on 3rd down.
Fact.
I'm going to go fiction because it's always whatever doesn't happen that everyone has the right answer after the fact. So I'll go, if he catches it, it's the greatest idea in the world.
Yeah, I'm going to go fiction because the play was there, and that guy doesn't drop the ball. You did a safe throw to where it would be completed and the clock would run if you don't pick it up. So I'm gonna go fiction. I think it's a little bit of results oriented analysis.
So I went fact.
Okay.
I originally had fiction, and then I thought about it more.
Uh-huh.
They had 2 chances to run the ball. You run it twice, even if you get stopped. You're
You're
probably
gonna
going
run it again on 4th down?
Yes, you're gonna
But then you only
tush
need
push.
but then you only need well, that depends on what you get on 3rd down.
Sure, but
If
you at
get
least
no yards, you're
you
not gonna
add
tush push.
at a minimum
The
you
clock
have
was their enemy.
the clock. You're getting 50 seconds off the clock no matter what.
Well, you're getting
versus
40. You're getting 38 or 39. It would have been. They would have.
it'd
It'd have been 103.
The Eagles ran
on
the ball
clock.
so effectively that
Right.
game. You need 3 yards, and if you pick up even a yard, you're more than
It
likely
just-
going for it
It
on
just
4th
cost
down.
me
Right.
on my
Yeah.
my pick six.
But
pick,
so-
but I mean,
Made me mad.
they also just threw the ball on 2nd down and completed it to set up 3rd and 3. And now throwing the ball was so dumb when nobody talks. It's like the Chiefs get bailed out on 4th and 16. Well, why was it 4th and 16? Because a penalty went against the Chiefs.
Listen, don't be mad
They
about
should.
this. You were
they should
wrong.
run the
Sorry
ball.
you were wrong.
I know, but they should run the ball on 3rd and 3. Why? Well, you got to run the clock.
the-
but they passed it on
the
2nd
Chiefs
down.
aren't
Why
the
didn't they run it on
Eagles.
2nd down?
The Chiefs.
But why didn't they just run it on 2nd down then? They should have
because the
ran it on
second down you go do that. Then you get to 3rd down, you don't do that. Who's up?
We're gonna lead off with Dylan here.
Dylan.
It's 5 to 4 to 3.
Wanye Morris will start at left tackle this week.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good
That
factor
is a good
fiction.
one.
Oh man. Over under.
Biased, I'm going to go fiction.
Over under a half start for Wanya Morris this weekend. Oh, that's a great line. That's the perfect line.
I'll go 0.75.
Man, I'm gonna go fiction.
I'm
I
going
think
fiction,
they're
too.
going back to Kingsley.
Yeah, I went fiction too, and I this was hard for me because you know my love for Wanye, big boys to men guy.
What did Dylan get that point?
Yeah, you
too?
guys all went fiction.
Okay, cool.
This was hard. I think they go back to Kingsley this week, though.
I think so,
I
too.
think they go back to Kingsley. Now, if he struggles mightily yet again and they have to insert Wanye back in the game this week, I think Wanye gets to start week 4.
I said with Tysher that I think part of Andy not committing to Kingsley is we have the week for Kingsley to figure out to get his mind right.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't, then we're going with Wanya Morris. But if he gets his mind right and realizes that he's got to get back out there and play and get it done between the ears and, get coached up, then he's our starter. But I need to see it before I definitely say he's our starter. Jawan Taylor had played in the NFL, had been there, done that. was a high, level free agent. That's one of those to where we're going back to him. But anyway, it's me this time.
All right, Jason.
Uh-huh.
The Missouri Tigers cover the 20.5 versus Vandy.
Yes, I'm going to say fact.
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 We're all struggling.
We're all
with
struggling with
fact.
fact.
We are sort of like, we're not
barely.
not confidently saying fact here.
It's a 20.5 point spread. I think they cover because they win by 21.
Okay. So it's still covered.
That's fact.
That's a cover. That's a fact. I was gonna probably say Vandy covers until they lost to what was it, Georgia State, and at that point I go, yeah,
Let's go. I'm up.
no. All right,
Todd's going to lead us off. Last three, 7 to 6 to 5.
Liabu.
It's a tie.
Justin Fields stays QB1 rest of the season. Fact or fiction?
Fiction. They're gonna play Russ some.
Yeah, fiction.
Man, so because injury has to account in this too.
Well, if he were better,
He's
different,
6 and
but
3.
I'll say this: Justin Fields stays QB1
If he's healthy,
if he's healthy.
I'm going to say fact.
I think it's a fact.
Yeah.
I don't know how you move on. He's 2-0. I know they're trying to work Russ back in, but if he keeps winning,
In his last 9 starts, he's 6 and 3.
But what if Russ needs to cook?
I don't want what he's serving.
Yeah, I mean, they gave him the office, so he's got to use that office, right?
No, Justin Fields, dating back to week 12 of last year, is now 6 and 3 as a starting quarterback.
I'm going to go ahead and say it.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson's can do high knees on the sideline while
There you
Justin Fields.
Mr. Unlimited.
Unlimited amount of practice and mental reps.
He's
during
very
the game.
limited. Very limited.
We will start with Dylan,
Dylan,
our Mr. Unlimited.
Bengals are the best 0-2 team in the NFL.
I like that question.
Yeah, that is a good question. I'm trying to think of who else is, but I don't really
So
think
0
anyone-
and 2, I'll go through the
The
teams
Panthers.
for you.
But thanks, Todd. Yeah.
Bengals, Ravens, Colts, Titans, Jags, Broncos, Giants, Panthers, and Rams.
Ooh, the Rams being there. No, I'll go Bengals. I think that's fact.
I think it's fact too.
Fiction. Why not?
It is fiction. It's the Ravens.
That's right.
Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't even.
I
hear
just
the
thought
Ravens
the
when
fact
you
that the
said
Ravens
it,
lost to the Raiders at home.
I get it.
You'd end up going.
The Chiefs lost to Raiders at home and won the Super Bowl.
And the
Yeah.
Bengals lost to
Bang.
the
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Merry Christmas.
Bengals lost to the Patriots too, which
Yeah.
isn't that much better.
Oh, but the Patriots took to the Seahawks in
You're right.
overtime, and
Patriots won like
true.
7 Super Bowls.
Very
the
true.
the Bengals had a better chance of beating the Chiefs than the Ravens did.
That's good, Lebo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wait,
everyone-
what'd
last,
you
last
say?
question.
I didn't hear
I
it.
said
I apologize.
the Patriots have won like 7 Super Bowls. What are you talking about?
So it's 8 to 6 to 6.
Tied.
Last one.
Jason,
Yep.
after seeing the Saints the first 2 games, Saints now win the NFC South.
The fact that Derek Carr talked to us over the summer, it's not a surprise to me that he's now playing like this.
It's true.
I'm going Saints win that division. It's a fact. Saints win the division.
Fiction. Baker.
Let Bake
Cook.
cook.
That is tough, man.
Let him bake.
Let Mayfield bake.
Yeah, I'll go fact.
It's fiction.
No, it's not.
And it's still going to be the Falcons. The Falcons are going to start off 1-2, which I said from the get-go.
That's
I
fine.
said from the get-go. Their schedule
That's
from
fine.
that start
What's
is
the tiebreaker question?
So easy.
Todd, you got that one right?
No, I missed it.
Sharman
no,
Ultra
I did
Soft.
say
Someone
fiction.
got
I had the wrong answer.
You're the wrong team, but,
But
you're
still,
yeah, it's
So,
fiction.
so I have 9, so we're
Falcons
tied.
still win the NFC South. Fact.
Todd got 9 out of 12. And Dylan and I tied him with 6. So we
We're
got a
all tied.
tiebreaker.
That's
here
12-9.
What
coming
if
up.
6 was 9?
Just flip it. Just turn it over. All right, what's the tiebreaker question here, Stu?
Okay, what is my favorite movie? You get my top 5.
Okay.
I have top 5.
Okay, all right.
And you get 3 guesses.
All right.
And each guess is you get a point if it's in the top 5.
Okay.
First
This
two don't
is
count.
so bad.
Here
You're
we
not
go
giving
again.
us any hints.
No hints.
have to know
what are
you.
the 5? What are the 5 movies?
No, he doesn't tell us 5
I don't
movies.
tell you the 5 movies. You
We
have
have
to
to just
guess
say them.
one of my 5 movies.
So
You have
dumb.
3
It's the
guesses.
worst.
This is the
No,
worst.
no. You have 3 guesses, and if you get it, you
Okay,
get,
fine.
you get up to 3 points.
Go to break. We're
Remember,
toast.
And also, if there's a chance that if it's a movie I forgot to put on here and I like, I'll give you half a point.
remember before the segment started, Todd, when Sterling said, "Hey, I actually have a tiebreaker that's more like it's supposed to be, like
And
Corey
it's,
had."
it's not. It's the worst one ever.
It's maybe the worst one ever.
first.
All
What
right.
is my favorite movie? 3 guesses in my top 5. You get 1 point for each, and if I forget the movie and I like it, you get half a point. Go.
I'm gonna go Royal Tenenbaums, Big Lebowski, and Inception.
Big Lebowski's, you got 1 point.
Nice. Yes.
1 point.
Lebowski, Almost Famous, and Waterworld with Kevin Costner.
Neither of those two, you got 1 point.
Ah.
Happy Gilmore.
Hey, you got 1 point. No, wait, no, you got half point. Half point.
Oh, half point.
Step
Okay.
Brothers.
Half point.
Pulp Fiction.
Hey, it's a full point.
No
Yes,
way.
2.
Two.
Look, you can look right there,
Nice
boys.
job. What were the 5? Give me your 5.
Big Lebowski, Dazed and Confused,
Ah.
Pulp,
Dazed and
Pulp Fiction, Wayne's World, and then Shutter Island. I love Shutter Island.
should've
Great
gone-
book.
That's a
great
great
movie.
The book is better than the movie.
Agree, but both are phenomenal.
I should have gone Dazed over Almost Famous. I was going the
Should've-
music
you
side
were close.
for you, right?
You're close.
Thanks, Todd.
One again.
No, thank you, Sterling.